I went on to Google and I was like, okay, Dungeons and Dragons. And the first thing that popped up was a Twitch stream, which if you type in Dungeons and Dragons on Google, Twitch will not be anywhere near the top at all.
Right.
Like this was a total God thing, total God thing. I believe that miracles happen all the time, even if they are small and seem insignificant or easy to miss. This was a miracle that happened in my life. I wholeheartedly believe it. Mark, the pastor at Lurk Digital Church, was streaming that day. He was sick as a dog, streaming Dungeons and Dragons, which he never streamed before in his life. And he was just doing a character creation. That's all he was doing. And I clicked on it. And I didn't have a Twitch account, anything like that. I was just lurking. I was just watching, seeing what was going on. But I made note of it. And I came back another time when he had streamed. So I came back again. And then I made a Twitch account.
Control-Alt-Redeem is for anyone called to ministry in the digital frontier. Gamers, streamers, and everyday believers navigating life online. Each episode equips you to live on mission and the real stories of lives being changed. Reset your expectations, reframe your mission, and redeem the space you're already in. This is where digital ministry gets practical, creative, grounded, and hopeful. One episode at a time.
Let me welcome everyone into Control, Alt, Redeem. We are resetting the culture and redeeming the space. And Bootstraps Boots of Campfires and Dragons is guest on the podcast today. Welcome in, Boots.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've known each other for a while and hung out on Twitch Spaces. We've hung out in person a couple of times, so I'm excited to have you on here today.
Yeah, it's been years, actually. I think one of the first 2 streams that I watched on Twitch, well, 3, I'll say first 3 streams that I watched on Twitch as a whole, because I actually haven't been on Twitch for that long. I've only been on Twitch for, like, as a consumer, I would say 5 years. So not like a whole long period of time. But my first 3 streams were Lurk Digital Church, Jate, and Flat Cap. You were the first 3 streams that I actually tuned into. Yeah, I jump in Flat Caps in the morning.
Yeah.
I jump in Flat Caps in the morning, and then Jate's at night. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know I was up there with Jate and Lurk Digital Church. I've not been around as long as Jate. Jate's been around a long time.
He's
but
like 12 years or something.
I was just my viewing on Twitch was just after Lurk Digital Church went live. I was within a month or 2 of when they started, and I found I think I found Mark before I found Lurk Digital Church. I found Mark out there and connected with him. So
got it.
Okay, let me just see here. First time chatter. Boots is loud and I am soft. I will take Boots down just a wee bit. You know what? Let me look here at the browser source.
I do also yell a lot, so
well, you know,
I'm passionate.
I try not to have a hot mic, so that's part of it too, because I can blow the microphone out pretty easily. So hopefully that'll fix everything there. Yeah, you're jumping back and forth. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it helps. It helps.
So what
takes a lot of people to make it work.
There we go. Yeah, we have a loud, deep voice.
Loud, deep voice.
I always like the deep voice, and I really don't even know, as far as singing goes, what my voice actually is, because all I ever did was copy other people, and I never had lessons on how to sing. So I can mimic artists decently, not well enough to get paid for it, but decently. And it's like, I don't even know what I would sing. So it's like, you have to tell me, do you want Elton John to sing this, or Axl Rose, or do you want
a reference point?
Yeah. It's like, I need a reference point. How am I supposed to sing this?
And in my standing, you just don't want me to sing, and we'll just call that where it is. I mean, some people weren't gifted with that, and that is okay.
Yes, definitely. Nobody is paying me to sing. That's for sure. What's fascinating is, as a pastor, often will people have the expectation, well, you can lead worship. No, I can't. I mean, one of the weird thing is like, I can't, for instance, sight read Greek or Hebrew and just translate on the spot. I have to go word for word, translating, and I have to do the same thing with music. I can't sight read notes. I can sit there and pass a test on music and tell you what all the notes are, but I can't sight read. I was never able to sight read. So when I did a little bit of music, trying to get into it in elementary school. I sat there and I transposed everything to an A, B, C, D so that I could then
Oh yeah.
actually play it because I can't sight read. So it's weird.
That is interesting. I find that when very long time ago, past life, I haven't played music in a very, very, very long time. But yeah, that was one of those where whenever I was playing either church music or just music in general, I used to play guitar a long time ago, and it was very much either, it would have to be one or the other. Like I couldn't like split between things. Like if I had sheet music in front of me, a lot of church sheet music will have both the notes themselves as well as then
Yes.
the actual written out. And for me, if I would like, even my eyes wandered from like, A, G, whatever, and then all of a sudden down to the notes, I would just get lost.
Yeah.
It'd be so bad. So it was like, for me, I had to almost do like, okay, I have to decide, do I scratch out like the notes above, or do I just follow the notes? And like, yeah, I get it. I can't like, it's got to be organized for me. I can't do it like back and forth.
Yeah. And then I have kids that were into music and talented and able to do stuff and taught themselves guitar. And then just a plug out there, because we didn't live where somebody could give you guitar lessons, but then Rocksmith came out and
Rocks.
yeah, Rocksmith. So I can't remember if it was on Wii. I want to say it was on Wii, but I might be wrong on that. And you would put it in, plug your actual guitar into it. It would tune the guitar, and then it would give you little mini lessons and stuff, and then you could play. So
That's really cool.
It was really cool. And so then they ended up playing guitar in the school jazz band, or if they needed
jazz
something,
music.
needed something for theater. Hey, we need somebody to play guitar, or even play for church. They were self-taught, and then had Rocksmith help teach them a little bit better.
It's impressive. That's impressive.
I was impressed because it's like I can't teach you anything about music.
Well, and the thing is too, jazz is not easy at all. Like I played jazz guitar in high school, and those chords are insane. Like I would arguably say it is one of the hardest forms of guitar to play because they are not traditional chords by any stretch of the imagination. They are so complex. So the fact that your kids could literally teach themselves that's nuts.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah. Well,
that's awesome.
My daughter had when she was, I can't remember if it's 5th grade or 6th grade. Going to the school, they're going to pick out instruments, and she really had her heart set on playing a flute. And so they give you the flute. She's trying to play it. She can't make a sound out of the flute. She could not get her lips in the right position to do anything with it. And they're asking. So then they can see she's heartbroken. She really wanted to play this, and they're asking questions like, "Are you good in math? Are you good in science?" Yes. They hand her an oboe, which is a really, really hard instrument to be able to play. Within 5 minutes, she was playing chords on the oboe with no instructions. Like, okay,
Dang.
like, here you go. Like, that flute thing? No, you don't need that. Here, have a musical instrument that's hard, and you'll be able to do that. So,
gifting. Some people, it clicks. Certain things they make sense.
Oh yeah, well,
it's awesome.
And that that's which we'll get into this, here as far as talking about on Twitch, but as content creators, there are giftedness that you have and different things that you are able to do that I can't do. And there's things that, anyone else who's been on the podcast, there's things they can do. It's like, man, I love what you're doing, but I could never do the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And that's the beautiful thing about it is it's the fact that we can all do so many different things that brings us together to be able to do what we do, because we literally can't do it all. It's not possible. We're not meant to. Meant to. And I think that's absolutely great then finding the people, these creators, especially to bring them here at the Church.digital, bring, like Reach, NCMS, stuff like that, like bringing people together, be like, hey, we're all in this together. We're just in different areas. Like we just have our expertises. Like that's really what it is. And it's fantastic to see what some other people do that I couldn't even fathom doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great.
Well, and not only that, but when I do more things, I do more things at a lower level than someone who's just an expert in that,
Oh, like kind of the jack of all trades situation.
Right. So being a pastor and going into churches that were not high tech, I was the tech expert coming in. I'm not a tech expert. I have way more knowledge than a bunch of you who are rural Iowans who aren't on any social media or doing anything. However, I need somebody teaching me because I'm self-taught. And while I can take it to this level, it's always a little sus that it's like it's not perfect. That we're asking the sound levels here to begin
Making
with.
it work.
Yeah, it's like, if you just have a designated sound person who gets training on sound, they're much, much better than my level of sound is. I'm just around it enough. I pick up enough things. I can do it. I can operate it. But if you really want to fine tune it, I don't have the ear for it. I don't have the ear for
Well,
it.
that's the other thing too is for like sound engineers, the people who do lighting and stuff like that. It's like it's not just, you don't have to just know what you're doing. There's a thing, like whether it's the ear or the eye, like you see things where I wouldn't even imagine. Like my biggest trouble that I've come into when it comes to like setup, lighting is just so difficult. And it's like some people, they just seem like, oh, that's your problem right there. Or that's your problem right there. It's like, what? How do you know that? And they're like, I can just tell right by looking at your camera right now. Just like mind blown. Crazy.
Well, and to go with lighting, glasses are horrible for lighting.
Yeah.
And cause
the worst.
so many problems. I'll tell this. This is funny. So on my desk right below my monitor, I've got an extension cord with all the outlets to plug into it. I had a white one, and then I had backlighting behind my computer. Well, it was reflecting off of the white cord and showing up in my glasses. I had to change it out for a black one so that I don't have reflections. Like, you don't have glasses. You don't think through these things. How do you solve that? How do you figure it out? How do you it's
I get it. I have like a zone. I have like a zone of like where I can be before I like get into, or if I look in directions, like I know that as long as I'm right here, I know that I'm good.
Yeah.
But the second I move or look in other directions, it's not. Like, it's hilarious. If you could see my light situation, it is hilarious how to get this to work. Because you're right. Like if it weren't for glasses, you and I's lighting situation would be way easier.
Totally.
But it's so difficult, and you need either, it's complicated. It's complicated. So if you have glasses and you're looking to get into content creation, hit us up. We might have some tips for you because it is not easy.
It's a bit of trial and error. The latest thing that I've discovered is helpful because I don't like dark mode, because sometimes buttons don't actually show up in dark mode when you just change the PC fully to dark mode. Something that's a gray or a tone, it'll just make everything black. It's like, where's the button I'm supposed to hit? So I figured out putting it into night mode and telling it that it's nighttime will take the temperature of my monitor down so that it's more of a yellow hue instead of a bright white. And that's very helpful for not reflecting off my glasses.
Sorry about that. Had to take care of a spammer in chat. Oh my gosh, I don't need AI viewers. Come on now, we got the best viewers we get. Come on, jeez, Louise.
AI viewers, they won't talk.
Yeah, it was like AI viewers.
Yeah.
Well, what's the point?
I still think that there's a level at which, even if you're attending a church in person and you're doing some things, there should be people from your congregation and from your life that should be willing to jump on and watch what you're doing and hang out with you. Especially when you're getting started. I'm not saying they're going to be long-term, but, when getting started, invite people to be able to come and be supporters and be there and help out. And some of them will love what you're doing and might continue and go, hey, I never knew what Twitch was, or if you're doing other content and do that. It's interesting how we don't always think to support one another in our efforts to reach, because if I have 100 people I know and they just watched every video, they don't have to watch every video. Click on the video, give a thumbs up, give a heart, move on, do whatever you're going to do. Even if you don't like, I understand. My podcast is a 2 to 3 hour podcast and occasionally longer. And some people want a half-hour podcast. So I'm not for you. I'm not your cup of tea. Or you're like, oh, you're bringing on Twitch streamers. I don't know who they are. That's fine.
Right.
But you could still scroll through and give me a thumbs up. I mean, that doesn't cost you anything.
Well, and that's the nice thing too, which is, I would argue, very unique to our neck of the woods of Twitch, is the support that's there.
Yeah. Where
content creators will just, like, funny enough, before stream today, I was having an audio issue that I couldn't hear anything, which, big brain me, I had my tab muted. Well, a way that I support other creators within the space, even if I'm not able to be there because say I'm working or I'm, doing other things that day, I can still have Twitch pulled up and have them present and then just mute the tab. And that allows them to get that viewership, which is really nice because it doesn't seem like you're doing anything, but even that little bit allows you to possibly bump that channel up in the random queue that Twitch has by even 1 or 2 views can push someone up 30, 40, 50, 100 people. And then that gets that person that much further to reaching their one, which is fantastic. So yeah, it's the little things you don't think much of it. And it's like, yeah, you don't even have to technically be actively there, even if it's not something you're genuinely interested in. It's just supporting.
Yeah.
Because I will say the majority of the time, the church digital here, you guys are live when I'm at work. So what I'll do is I'll just pull it up on my phone and I'll just put my phone on my desk. It's like I'm not actually listening or chatting or talking, but it's like, no, I'm supporting this because I love what you guys are doing. And I want to give you something back. And as simple as a little view, that's honestly all you need sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and because we had the AI bots coming in here, and there are AI bots, Twitch is trying to figure out who's a genuine person and who's not. So
Yeah.
I try to, whenever I do go and I tab up the person, say hi, hello, give a lurk,
Right.
so that
Say a little
they
something.
know that that's the case, so that there's no expectation that that you're talking to me and I'm not listening.
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to have that, but the level of support of being able to do that does take a little level of a couple of steps to just show that you're active
Mhm.
and make sure that that's happening. Yeah.
And the nice thing is most content creators have exclamation point lurk. And if you're not a content creator, or if you are a content creator and you don't, you should, because it's a nice way for people to be recognized, as well as it then also solves that whole if you're a bot or not problem.
Yeah. You know what? I'm trying to remember. I have one on,
Yeah, I know you got one on your own channel.
do I have one here? Oh, I do. That's right.
Here we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like yours on your personal channel, and they will jump up and yell heresy or something
Well,
if it's not.
yeah, it's something they're settling into the background, but they will jump right back in if they hear heresy.
Yes,
And
that's it.
and
I
then
love it.
I have a person that is there every day, and they go to drop their kids off at school. So they're listening before they have to drop their kids off. They listen on the way. So they lurk.
Yep.
And so they say lurk. I know they're going to drop the kids off. When
Yep.
they get back from dropping the kids off, they do unlurk. Well, they've been doing that for, I don't know, quite a while. And I'm like, I need to create an unlurk. So I created a randomizer for unlurk so
Oh,
when they
no.
unlurk, random things happen. Like they trip over something, knock stuff off of the table. They make
Oh
a
my
ruckus.
gosh.
So
That's
if you
fantastic.
hadn't noticed that, I added that feature probably a month or two ago to the unlurking, because people
I like
started
that.
doing unlurk. I'm like, yeah, you don't need to tell me your unlurk. All I have to do is chat. Like, why do I need to unlurk? But it was like a couple
But it's fun.
a couple of devoted people caused me to get creative with a
Yeah.
randomizer for what happens when you unlurk. You make a big noise and draw attention to yourself. That's what's going to happen.
Right. On my old personal channel before Campfires and Dragons, I did have for my lurk was I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it was pretty much you return to your Pokeball because I had a Pokemon theme. I guess I technically still do, but it was return Pokemon, and then if you came back and you unlurked, it was their name. I choose you. And it's like they're coming back out of their Pokeball.
That's
so it's like having little fun, little tiny little things like that. You don't think it goes a long way, but with certain viewers, they love that. And I mean, I'm a viewer who I love that kind of stuff too. I like that random little shenanigans when it comes to that. I enjoy it. I can admit.
Yeah, I am a fan of the randomizer. I'm realizing if I can randomize something, I want to find a way to put something in there. And I've got a mod that's always creating new randomizers so that they can pass out food. So I've got pizza you can pass around, tea you can pass around. And it's fun to just slip one in there that's just like ridiculous. In the middle of all these things that you're passing around is, something that's just like, why is that in there?
Right. Like, where did this come from?
Well,
yeah, I appreciate those things for sure.
Yeah. Well, just to go back where we were starting, you started with naming a couple of us that you watch. What brought you onto Twitch in the first place?
So, funny enough, which kind of plays into the whole story of Campfires and Dragons, even a while ago at this point, 5 years ago. Holy cow, it's been a long time. What brought me back was I was in school and some of my friends were like, "Hey, we should play some Dungeons and Dragons again. We haven't played in years." And I'm like, "Okay, I gotta bump up my knowledge base on Dungeons and Dragons." So like, I don't know too much. Like I know, 5e and all that stuff. I mean, I'm playing it for a very long time, but I just want to make sure that I was up to date with any new content that came out. So I just went on a Google search and I was like, "Hey," and this is before I actually came back to the church. At this point, I was on my own. I didn't reject God. I didn't reject Christ. I just rejected the church. I'll be honest with you. It was a church hurt situation. I walked away and I was like, "No, I don't need people. God and me are good. Jesus and me are good." And it's like, yeah, I get that. But there's a right and a wrong mindset to that because, like, okay, are you good because you are in a strong Christian relationship with people and you have community and like that's good? Or is it, no, you're good because you just want to be a lone wolf type? And it's like, well, that's not good. That's you kind of lying to yourself. But long story short, that happened and I went on to Google and I was like, okay, Dungeons and Dragons. And the first thing that popped up was a Twitch stream, which if you type in Dungeons and Dragons on Google, Twitch will not be anywhere near the top at all.
Right.
Like this was a total God thing, total God thing. I believe that miracles happen all the time, even if they are small and seem insignificant or easy to miss. This was a miracle that happened in my life. I wholeheartedly believe it. But Mark, the pastor at theChurch.digital Church, was streaming that day. He was sick as a dog, streaming Dungeons and Dragons, which he never streamed before in his life. And he was just doing a character creation. That's all he was doing. And I clicked on it. And I didn't have a Twitch account, anything like that. I was just lurking. I was just watching, seeing what was going on. But I made note of it. And I came back another time when he had streamed because he had his schedule out. So I came back again. And then I made a Twitch account. I was like, oh, I guess I'll make an account. Fine. So I made a Twitch account. And then as I made my Twitch account, since his was the only stream that I was watching, then Twitch did their recommended. And then that's where I found Jade. And then that's where I found you. And it was just like through the recommended channels. I would argue the recommended channels back 5 years ago were way better than they are nowadays. I feel like you get a lot of like garbage spam now with the recommended channels. But yeah, and that's how I ended up finding you guys because I was watching Mark, who was affiliated with a Christian church. So it then, of course, Flat Cap Dapper Pastor, I'm guessing is how Twitch algorithm was like, oh, you'd probably like this guy too. And it worked out great. And I would, like I said, I would start my days. I'd have a Bible study with you in the morning. And then when I'd be coming back home from work, Jate would jump on and I'd be hanging out with Jate then at night. And that's how I ended up getting to Twitch, ironically enough, is I didn't even consume it before 5 years ago, which is crazy.
Well, it's interesting because there's different waves of people that seem to have come into Twitch. And one of those was the COVID wave. And that's where I ended up was coming in with that. But I had a pastor friend who kept telling me about, going online and doing VR ministry and going online and doing Twitch. And so it was like, yeah, that's great. Go do that. Have fun. But I wasn't interested in doing anything with it. And then it was during COVID that I'm sitting home and it's like, okay, let me go check it out. So, it's interesting how those different moments in our life open us up to go into something. And some people will go in and go, well, that's great and that's nice, and then leave. But you came in and you started watching, and you were active in my chat for quite a while there in the mornings and engaged and asking a lot of questions. And so
still my favorite Bible study on Twitch. I highly recommend anybody in chat. If you don't see Flat Cap's Bible study, check it out. It is absolutely amazing. Seriously.
Dr. Ford, I think I found Flat Cap because he was playing Minecraft. Is that something that sounds about right now? That does not sound right at all. I have never played Minecraft. I'm not opposed to anybody that chooses to. However, when my kids wanted to play it, and they're all adults now, and I walked in the room and I saw it, I'm like, why are you playing 8-bit? Like, I grew up with 8-bit. We have something better now. Why are you playing 8-bit? This makes no sense to me.
Backtracking.
Yes, you're going backwards. I've just had this bias. I will not go play 8-bit. So I've never tried Minecraft at all. I'm guessing it's a great game and you can do a
8-bit's
lot
coming
of
back, I'm
stuff.
telling you.
But when they get to 1080p Minecraft, maybe I'll be ready for it.
See what happens.
Yeah, instead of cubes.
Yeah, Minecraft is fantastic.
Yeah. So
I
again,
like Minecraft.
Again, nothing against it, but every once in a while, there's just stuff in life, and we all have these. I'm just like over the top and telling mine of, nope, I simply won't go do that. Here's my reason. It doesn't have to make sense, but that's my reason. Like, so for a long time, I pointed out, well, fruit doesn't belong on pizza, so I will never try pineapple. And then someone said, well, technically, tomatoes are a fruit, so do you? Okay. My logic is flawed. I can't argue that anymore. Argument gone. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But hey, we grow that way.
Yeah, exactly. We grow.
And there's pineapple on pizza emote. Perfect timing.
I know. I knew it would come in. I've got a couple people in my chat that regularly will come in, and the first thing they talk about is pineapple on pizza.
That's hilarious.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah, we're talking about the Bible, and you come in and mention that pineapple belongs on pizza. I know.
That's great. That's great. But yes, there is always something that everyone is like. For me, there are certain games people are always like, oh, you got to jump in on this game. You got to jump in on this game. I mean, I'm a gamer. I love to play games. I play a lot of games. But there are certain games that I look at. I'm just like, I just have zero interest. Like, I could play it. But like, even just looking at it, I just have this like innate feeling of just like, I'm not going to enjoy it. And I don't want to go buy a game and then just be like, play 5 minutes and be like, nah, I'm good. So I get it. There's certain games even for me that are just like, I will not touch. But then there's also like weird games that like I love and adore that other people are like, how can you even manage playing that? Like, I have the old 1994 Icewind Dale Dungeons and Dragons game on my PC. You want to talk about 8-bit? I don't even think it's 8-bit. It is garbage bit. Like, it is... Your character maybe has 3 pixels. It's bad.
Yeah.
So bad. But I love that game. I've put so many hours into that game and I love it. But like, if you like graphics, you are going to die playing that game. You will be in so much pain because the graphics are garbage.
Well, to go back further than that, we played, I want to say there was some game, it was Cave or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly. And it was just a prompt and you had to tell it what to do, ask it questions. And then it was like, there was no basis for knowledge of how do you play the game. Like, it was just simply
interesting.
Take 10 steps forward and then see what happens. There's a door, knock on the door, open the door. None of those things work. What do you do now? Like, it was like no help, no hints, no nothing, just text only. Text-based game was all it was, with no storyline to tell you what you were trying to do or anything.
It's like the choose your own adventure story kind of thing.
Yeah, but at least they're giving you a whole, they're reading a whole, here's what's happening. This was like nothing, no idea, You
just go for it.
Yeah.
World's your oyster.
Well, and then you type something and nothing would happen. So you don't even know if you typed the right thing, the wrong thing.
Right, because it would have certain key prompts, yeah.
Right. You didn't type the right key prompt, so you can't actually do anything. It's like, you can't even give me a hint of like, guess a number between 1 and 5 and something random will happen.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was. I am not, I am not nostalgic for old games. I'll just say that.
I think that's a little more much for me. I don't think I could handle that. I think that's a little too, like, what am I doing here? Yeah.
I have seen a lot in the last 6 months of people talking about Oregon Trail and getting nostalgic over Oregon Trail, even to the point of watching a couple of people. At least I want to say I've seen 3 different people who have gotten in a car to play Oregon Trail in their car.
They drive the trail?
They drive the trail and see if they get dysentery. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. I don't want to watch hours and hours of this, but I like your thought process.
Dedication. And hopefully you don't get dysentery because you're stuck in a car. Not a good time for anybody.
Well,
for anybody.
Yeah, nobody needs dysentery. Just like, you were always going to end up dying of dysentery, I swear. Like, the game was realistic in that way. A little bit too realistic.
Yeah, yeah. But Oregon Trail, that's the other day I was watching, and I forgot all about these games that existed, and I forgot how much I played them back in the day. And it was Freddy Fish and the Case of the Stolen Conch. That was back when I was in like elementary school. I played that game like till the CD was charcoal. And then same with it was a Putt Putt's Adventures. And it was like one of those like games where you'd have to drive across and the dog would go and they pop balloons, but it would like bounce off the car and you couldn't let the dog hit the ground. Like it would have to keep hitting the balloons. It was like one of those style games. I can't remember what those are called, but it was like those kinds of games. And the Freddy Fish was like a puzzle game too. And it was like, I forgot those games existed until like a couple months ago. And then all of a sudden it just all came back to me. I was like, holy cow, I used to play like hundreds of hours of these games as a kid. I was like, whoa. And I forgot they even existed.
Well,
crazy.
Weird thing. And I probably ought to go look at this. So when I got to college, you keep getting the new system. And so you sell off your old stuff because, well, you need cash to, pay rent or eat. So you sell off stuff at like no value, not thinking about necessarily, oh, this will be valuable in 20 years because people are nostalgic and want it. So since then, since I had kids, I had the mindset of, no, if you're trading a game in to upgrade and get a new one, then go ahead and do that. But otherwise, no, don't sell your old games. Hold on to them. So I have a whole drawer. I have like a 3-drawer set. One's got old CDs that are in there that I won't get rid of. And then the next one has all of these computer-based games that were on CD that are probably janky games and nobody's going to play them, but it's like, they could be worth money someday, so I'm not going to throw those
never
out.
know nowadays.
Exactly.
You never know nowadays.
So.
Who'd have thought Pokemon cards blew up as it did? I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the one game, when thinking CDs, one of the first like genuine like hardcore strategy games I ever bought was Civilization.
Oh yeah.
Sid Meier's great franchise. They do an amazing job. And Civ 6 I was not a fan of, but whatever. All the others are gems. But I remember when I got this, it was like my mom bought it for me because I was young, and it was like, like the Britannica books where like it was like the encyclopedia.
Yes, I know those. Yes. I had.
Right. It's like it was like that. I'm like, it came in a box, and it was like, here's the first book. You pulled out 4 CDs, download the 4 CDs, put it away. Second book, pull it out, 4 more CDs. And I'm talking, I think that setup was like, what, if it was 4 per, it had to have been at least 16 CDs or something. It was obscene how many CDs to download this whole game. And I'm just like, wow.
Yes,
so much.
But that was like fantastic to have a game that big,
Oh, that's true too. I mean, it came with a whole encyclopedia in it.
Right. And to be able to take and download that because, well, I'm trying to remember how many games this happened with where you're playing the game and insert CD number 3. I got to stop, take the CD out, put CD number 3, do 2 or 3 things and goes, now insert CD number 2. Because it's like, it was just, I remember having that. Yeah, that was fun.
That would kill me. I'd just be like, you're getting your exercise, I guess, up and down, up and down.
Oh, it was,
my gosh.
All those old things, but,
I love it.
And now, we have so many things. I mean, like, I cannot even fathom, like, going on Steam and looking at the number of games and the number of genres that are out there.
Right.
Looking at any platform and the games and the things that are out there, it's like, I don't even know a fraction of anything that's out anymore. As opposed to growing up where it's like everyone knew every new game that came out because there was only 1 or 2 games coming out a month,
Right. And it was like big releases where people would like literally wait in line to get the games, and that was that. And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's like, and especially since Steam opened up to like a lot of the indie creators where you can really just make a game and post it. It's really blown up how many games are out there, and just how, like, there's no way you cannot find a game that you're going to like, because there are so many out there. There's so many niche things that you're going to find something you love, because Like you said, it's incredible how many games are available nowadays compared to when we were kids. It was like, no, you had a few big releases and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wanting the conversation and nostalgia, wanting me to go back and play Frogger again.
Frogger. I had Frogger on my calculator in school.
Oh
The
my.
Texas Instruments graphing calculator. I had Frogger. I had Mario. And I had, it was like Tunnel Runner or something. But yeah, I had those 3 games on my graphing calculator back in high school. Don't tell my mom that.
Well, those graphing calculators, when you were in high school, were more powerful than the PCs I had, when I was in school. So
It's fair. That's fair.
So yeah,
That's fair.
I remember in 6th grade when we got computers in the school system. So, and it had the cassette tape for giving data. We didn't even have floppy disk yet. We had the cassette tape to give it data to the computer.
Cassette tape. Dang, I remember the floppies.
Tape.
We had floppies.
Right.
But not cassette tapes.
Right. So I start with the cassette.
Oh.
I'm not old enough that the cards that you had to insert. I'm not that old, but I did start with the cassette tape. And we had, I just want to say Snake. That was the game that we could play on the computer in school. That's it. Snake. And it was like, I'm going to get this longer than everybody. I want to get the high score on it. Like, it was Snake.
Yep.
That, whoop-de-doo. Like, nowadays, any kid gets that game, they're playing it for 5 minutes, and that's a long time, and they're done,
Yeah, there's not a lot of replayability. Well, there's a lot of replayability with Snake. I'm one of those weird gamers, though. I can put thousands of hours in a game before I get sick of it.
Yeah, it just depends on the game. Like, if it's your genre, I can put hours grinding in RPGs, but you give me a FPS and I'm shot and I'm dead. I'm done. I don't need to play anymore.
Yeah, my first person shooter days are getting behind me. I was never good at them, but now I'm getting so bad because I'm getting out of the realm of fast reflexes that no, these kids are just wrecking me. I can't do it anymore.
Well, there is something about the what level you begin at and your capacity to grow from there. So, me starting with side scrolling and going from there, and this is how you play a game is side scroll back and forth to being able to see around, and then it's like I don't know how to aim the gun because I actually know how to shoot a gun, and there's no actual sights for me to aim the gun. So I can't do this with my thumbs over here. My thumbs don't aim, okay? So I can't figure that part out because I can't see the gun on the screen that's going in one direction to change. So,
yep, yeah, it's the what are we ingrained with, or our muscle memory? What is that? Is that again, like you said, your side scrollers or using an actual firearm itself? It's the muscle memory is there. My brain sees this and is like, oh, I'm gonna click back naturally to what I do. Yeah, no, I get it. There's certain games that just I'm not good at, and first person shooters are one of them.
Yeah. Which is, is why Twitch is wonderful from the standpoint of you can find your group of people that plays what you like, or you can be over in the realm of people who aren't doing gaming, who are doing the other, 5 to 10% of stuff that's not gaming happening on Twitch, which can be podcast and just chatting to reading the Bible, art, music. It is a wonderful place to go and find something that you can sit and enjoy.
For sure. It's beautiful and I love it.
So
why we're here.
Yeah. So let's just go back to your journey. So you found a few of us that were Christians. So you were coming on Twitch to look for playing D&D so that you could get some refresher to be able to go and play with your friends. Why did you stay? What drew you into hanging out more and being on Twitch?
I would say that I'm an introvert, as most of us are, but I'm like an extroverted introvert. I can wear an extroverted mask. It is exhausting, but I can do it. But I found that it was easy. Twitch was easy. I could interact with people with such a low level of, it's going to sound bad, but commitment, if that makes sense, out the gate. Because as simple as it is, it's in theory, if someone started hating on me, I just go hit the X button and they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's no level of like, how do I say, like commitment to the point of, oh, I'm now engaged with this person. I now need to have this conversation. If I don't want to, I can just hit the X button. I'm gone. So I think that was very, in an odd way, reassuring to me of like, hey, this is a safe space, not because it's safe. I want to make that very clear. Twitch is not arguably a safe space in a lot of ways, but it's a safe space in the aspect of I can just leave and no one can stop me from leaving. And where I was in my journey and where I was in my life, it was what I needed. It was uniquely what I needed because I wasn't looking for Christianity. I wasn't looking for a pastor. At my mindset at that point in time, pastors were manipulators. At that point in my mind, pastors manipulated people for power and wealth. That was it. Not saying that was right, but that's where my mind was at that time. So again, a God thing, it's like he knew that I was the, sheepish animal that if I went into a pen and someone slammed that gate, I'd jump the fence and I'd be gone. You'd never see me again.
Right.
But if you left the gate open, you put some food in there and you just let me come on in and, have a little snack here and there, have a little snack, leave, have a little snack, leave, have a little snack. Eventually, I'll stay. And I found that, again, it sounded like it was like 1 day, 2 day, and then I made a Twitch account and then I started engaging. That was over the course of months.
Yeah.
Before I even made the Twitch account. So it was very much that mentality of I just showed up to show up because I enjoyed what I was watching, And then it had got to the point where, you know what? Okay, I may not want anything to do with this pastor or Christianity, but I'm going to make an account because I'm enjoying what I'm engaged with here, which is the gaming aspect of it. Then from there, it was okay. Now I have an account. Now I can actually engage with these people. I can learn more about them. Then that's where I found you, and that's where I found Jade. And it was one of those where, okay, these are genuine communities with people who actually, which is crazy, see me.
Yeah.
Even known, you can't see me. You have no idea my real name or where I'm from, but somehow you see me more than most people that I engage with on a daily basis. And then that's where that curiosity was, so this person says they're a pastor or a Christian or what have you, and you're not treating me like garbage, and you seem to be my friend. Now I'm curious. Why are you different? And why do I not want to run away for some reason? And then that's where the conversation comes into play. Maybe not all Christians are what I experienced in my past. And then that's where the conversations came to be of them getting engaged with, church again, spending time with Christians, having friends that are Christian, and long story short, getting to where we are today. But it very much was an experience where, and in my own Twitch endeavors, I guess, or mission or what have you, I find that God showed me the path to get me back to him, which uniquely puts me in a place to engage with those people. Because I know that if Mark, that first or second stream, tried to slam that gate shut and was like, hey, let's go, I would have ran away and I would have never come back.
Right.
And I see that and I know that from my own journey. So being able to engage with those kinds of people makes it, in a unique way, something that other people can't engage with because we're all different. And that's the beauty of it. It's the point. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I really hope that some people who are listening to this live or later are thinking through some of those aspects of how do you engage new people? How do you treat people as they come in? How do you set up things to be able to be welcoming and those kinds of things? Because you're going to get people who are coming in who are hurt, who are in spaces that were not safe, and they will bolt if you don't treat them differently than what they've experienced in the past. Samarella, welcome in, and I'm losing your camera feed. Is it have a problem on Campfires and Dragons side or just mine? Because I can change a setting here.
I'm pretty blurry on Campfires and Dragons too. It says everything is good on my end, but yeah, I can see I'm pretty blurry on Campfires and Dragons. Yeah, 8-bit, 8 boot.
Yeah.
Broken boots. Well, let's not break boots. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Hold on. What if I just like turn off, turn on? Is it as simple as turn it off and turn it on
No,
thing?
it didn't do that.
No, shoot.
Go under the settings and I'm trying to remember where under performance. You can
Performance, yep.
yeah, you can change the maximum video quality. Drop that down,
Got it. Okay, we'll drop it. Yep,
and then
done.
and then maybe just there we go. That's better. Although you're frozen.
There we go. Oh, yep, I'm all frozen. Man, that's a beautiful headshot of me. Just all right. It's moving. We're getting there. Maybe.
It's getting better, but now it just pixelated again. Man,
Okay, let me go a little lower here. I can bring it down just a little bit. Let's do that, and then let's bring it there. Okay.
if the movement is there, let's see what. Still a bit choppy there. Still freezing.
Just a little choppy. Dang, we're doing so good.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm still showing my level there. Let me see. I'm not dropping any frames on my end. So
And it's automatically optimizing my settings too on top of it. Maybe here. Let me turn that off and then manually.
that might be it.
Okay.
Hey, Shadow Tuner, welcome in. Campfires and Dragons. It's so easy for us to want to nail down the salvation so fast. And in a process, we just scare people off, make them feel like we're trying to trap them. Yeah. And we sometimes have a tendency to treat people as a project instead of treat them as a person to appreciate and be in relationship with. The thing that I'm trying to get you to do, well, then you're of no value to me whatsoever. That's looking better there.
Yeah.
It's still a little pixelated, but it's getting better.
Interesting. Let's see. Let me.
Point
Okay.
0.1 frames a second. He rolled a 1.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm feeling.
Tropic Turtle. I had a pastor try and convince me I wasn't saved because he didn't like that I couldn't give him a specific day and time. Yeah, how about today? I am following Jesus. What do you need to know about my past? Am I truly like fruit is the thing that I want to see. What are you actually doing? How are you actually living? A date and a time, really. When did Peter start following Jesus? When he called him and he left his net? When he was with him and teaching him prior to that? When he denied Jesus what is Peter's date and time? I mean, it's a faulty idea, I think. Not to say that some people can't specifically say, here's when I made a decision or here's when I decided to. But for a lot of people, that's not a thing. Yeah, feels like you're trying to close a deal like a used car salesman. We definitely don't want that. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, everything was totally fine up until for some reason a second ago. What the heck?
The only other thing I could say is, but I don't know if this will mess up the stream, is to close the browser and start the browser over again.
Trying to see if I have any. Because the other thing too is they're running OBS from another PC, so I'm wondering if it's got to be a me thing because I'm seeing it on our stream as well. But I'm looking at all my levels on everything, and everything is fine. I'm barely using any of my CPU or my RAM. Just weird.
Samarella, not really able to be myself lately, Pastor. You're feeling a lot switchy and having these triggers that usually for me, but I'm scared of going into a loop and just lose myself. So I might be a bit, it's jumped on me, a bit slow and not talk too much. Okay. Yeah, I understand the switchy part there and some triggers. I know that you've gone through a whole lot, Sam. So appreciate you being here and hanging out. I hope that the new thing you've been invited to of helping others is working out well. Let me know on that if you're able to. Shadow Tuner, the good news is that we know that the Holy Spirit is responsible for someone being saved, not us. Absolutely. We are just called to present the gospel and often to look like creating a relationship, establishing rapport with the person first, not just gospel bombing them right and then get going. That's easier to do when we aren't feeling like we have to be the one to make sure they get saved. Yes, we just need to be the one to care about them. Yeah, K-Man saying, is there downloading updates? I don't think so, but if something's rolling in the background, that's going to eat stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, I closed out. I've got literally everything but the stream with me up at this point. So I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing, like I said, the only other thing I can think is to close the browser, reopen the browser, and jump back into the call. Because if you've
Yeah, let me
downgraded
try that.
the performance, that's about what's left.
Did.
Yeah.
When it's jumping in saying for 1 second, it's like, oh, you're good. And then the next second, nah, you're not. And then it's like, I don't know. Let's see.
Well, why don't you go ahead and do that. And if it doesn't work, then we can switch over and do Discord and get you back in here.
All right.
My mind is probably more like, mind you downloading is probably more like to affect Flat Cap saying Bootstraps. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You're saying me having something. Let me double check. I've got nothing going on. I thought I closed everything, but it should not affect the other side there. There we go. That looks better.
Back. We good?
We good.
We doing the thing?
Yeah, it looks good, I think.
Okay. Weird.
Much better. Doesn't matter. We're here. Let's go.
Let's do it. Appreciate everyone hanging out for the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
As we all know, so that's just a normal thing with stream.
It is. It is. Yeah, and I figured that out because somebody else told me that before. Of downgrade your feed your performance, and but I do know that if you're using OBS at the Twitch at letting Twitch optimize you, sometimes it does ridiculous things. Like I tried doing that before, and it was trying to send me out at like 4,000. Or like instead of 1080, it was trying to do some multiple.
All right, bump it even higher.
And it's like, no, why would anybody need to watch me? 4K, that's what it was. Like nobody needs to watch me at 4K. So
yeah, right. Like we're just chatting. What's going on? We don't need to. We're not playing some esports game. We don't need the 4K resolution.
Need 4K. I honestly can't even when everybody was raving about 1080 over 720. I'm like, I can't tell the difference between the two. So
got to see those nose hairs. Yeah, Dr. Forehead. Got to make sure that I'm breathing right.
That's what the super zoom is for, right? Is zoom in, be able to count every hair on that mustache and beard and make sure they're all good. All right. Well, we were talking about, getting connected on Twitch before everything went awry and all of that and building relationships and developing those, and that aspect of, for you, your encounter with Mark was what you needed so that it was safe for you, so that you did not have to leave, and then you began to find other people in the space. Is there more that happened after that?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was getting connected into Lux Digital Church that did a lot for me as well, because I was under the mentality that I would never set foot in a physical church again, just because of a lot of stuff that went on and things like that in my past. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But then the fact that there was a digital church completely online, it allowed me to, again, have zero risk of commitment. Like, hey, check it out. Worst case, 1, no one knows you're there. 2, you can just leave if they brutally offend you in some way or the other. Or you just hang out and you do something else while you're watching. Like maybe I'm just gaming while watching, and it's one of those where that allowed me to, again, baby steps and feel comfortable in the space. Because if I went to a physical church, I walk through those doors, I am inside that church, even though, yes, I can leave at any moment and no, they cannot stop. Yes, that's technically true. But it's not like we always feel that way.
It's not culturally true.
Right. That's a great way. Yes, it's not culturally true. You might feel bad for leaving, or you might feel the social pressure to stay.
Yep.
One or the other.
Or you might be confronted if you stand up.
Yep. Or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. Or an usher at the door might be like, "Can I help you?"
Right.
And it's one of those things where those are real life things, and it's one of those where this allowed me, again, kind of the same mentality when I was getting back into things as a whole. It allowed me to have that zero pressure, zero commit environment that made it so, hey, I'm able to set foot in this space, in this church. And the first, I don't even know how many services, I didn't say a word. No one knew I was there. I just was watching while either I was gaming or sometimes I would actually just be watching, either way. And it also allowed me to dig and figure out, okay, what is this church? And I did a deep dive into Lux Digital Church before I joined. And anybody who's looking for a church, whether it's physical or digital or what have you, I highly recommend always do your homework before. It's like a job. You always want to know what it is you're getting into before you're there, before it's too late, kind of a situation. So what I did was, I'm a YouTube consumer, always have been. I was there when YouTube started, and I'm still heavily consuming YouTube. Like, I am a YouTube consumer versus a Twitch consumer. And what I did was, not only did I deep dive into what Lux Digital Church was, where they came from, who's all affiliated with it, all that stuff, but I then went onto their YouTube page and I watched every single piece of content from their start until the day that I showed up. And at first you're thinking, oh, well, you just enjoyed the content, or, oh, you're supporting them, or what have you, kind of like we talked about before. It's like, no. I went in there to find fault.
Yeah.
I will be honest with you. When I first was looking at their content, I was like, I'm going to find something in here that is going to be either, like, in my eyes, a fallacy or wrong,
right,
or offensive, one way or the other. Yeah. And I will admit, that was my original point, was I want to see if they actually are truly in what I believe Christians to be. And I was watching it, and I was watching it, and I was watching it, and I have a lot of content for those that are looking for it. And I didn't find anything concerning. And when I say concerning, I mean, you're never going to agree on everything. Like, I can tell you right now, Flat Cap, you and I guarantee you there are things we don't agree on, and that's okay.
No big deal.
Yeah, that's okay. There are certain hills Christians need to die on, but the majority, it's a moot point. So, like, yes, there were certain things that I might not agree with that Mark agrees with, but there were nothing that was like a giant red flag of run away now. Like, this is not good. And then after that, I got involved and I started chatting, and I got into the Discord, and I was hanging out. And then there.
Yeah, before you go further with that, so we'll pick up from the Discord, but I just want to, for anybody that's listening and thinking about this, that it is a streamer that is trying to do things, is the level at which you put small steps in place, incremental, tiny steps. And this is the thing that is so much easier to do in a digital space than a physical space. And physical churches haven't figured this out. You need to make more steps in between the person watching your live stream on your church, where you're not actually chatting with them, and engaging them in connection and relationship, instead of, hey, if you're watching this online, like, follow, and show up in person, because that's the only thing that counts. Like, you need more steps along the way. And what I'm hearing you talk about in here is, you did what people do when they're going to a church, even if it's an in-person church. They're going to go and investigate. They're going to go in and look at everything that is said, that's published. They're going to see what other people are saying about it, so that you can have a fuller perspective on it. The average person, when they show up to a church now, if my numbers are accurate to current date, is they have watched 3 to 5 sermons over the course of 3 to 6 months. And so they've already made the decision about you. They are just coming in person to figure out, is this what it appears to be? And how does everyone there? So you need to have those levels of smaller, incremental things, that you can be a lurker, then you can be a person that says hi, then you can be a person that engages in chat. Like, how do you do that for the person that has been hurt, or the person that's never heard or gone to a church? All they've ever seen is, well, here's the Christians around me acting like jerks. I don't want anything to do with them. Why would I go check that out? Like, how do you take all of those steps and make them smaller, incremental? Because we live in a different time where we need smaller steps. And it goes back to our conversation we were having earlier of, you're not trying to win the race at the starting line. I'm just going to put it that way. You're trying to engage them for the marathon that you're in, with being alongside of them for the journey that you want to be alongside of them for the journey of. And so now you have started taking small steps, more steps, and putting yourself out there, exploring, being kept safe. And so that
Hmm.
allows you to take more steps. So now you're starting to say, this is a place where I could spend some time. So you're going, I'm going to get involved in the Discord and go more into that. What was it that made it safe enough to say, I want to invest here? And maybe there's not one thing.
First,
Yeah.
right. And I will say, first things I do want to say, just to echo kind of what you were saying, one of the hardest things about streaming online when you're trying to reach a certain group of people, you want results immediate. You want to see these things go up. You want to get traction. The thing that I will argue when it comes to streamers that have a higher purpose than I want to get famous. We're not here for that. Flat Cap, you're not here for that. I'm not here for that. We're not here for that. That's not the point. And keeping that in mind, where for all you know, that person who's lurking there, but you got one viewer for a whole day. For all you know, that one viewer was in my shoes 5 years ago. And it's like, no, they're just there. They're not going to say a word. They're not going to engage with you. And in your mind, you might have seen that stream as an absolute failure, but you don't know what seed was planted there because of those tiny baby steps that we're able to utilize in the online space that churches in person are not able to. But what I will say to what made me comfortable is when I found that I was at that crossroads of, okay, do I come out of the lurk, so to speak? This was at a point where, and again, for those of you that could be even lurking here today, or those who have lurkers or content creators that are wondering the same thing, these are the things that went through my mind. This was like my steps. So if you have people that are more in my shoes, where like I'm very much that animal that could run and jump the fence, you never see him again. This is where my mind was. I was there and I saw the personality. I know the person. They don't know me, but I know them because I saw them in stream. I saw who they are, at least in terms of visually and how they engage with the other people in their stream. Two, I verified them. I knew exactly who Mark was. I knew exactly the church he belonged to. I went through years of content and what he talked about to see if there were any fallacies or any issues. And then three, I engaged with the community as a fly on the wall to see, okay, is this a healthy community? And then once I saw all three of those things come together, I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's time I say hi and see how people react. So then the fourth step for me was engaging still at arm's length with that community to be like, hey, I'm here. I said hi. I'm not here, but I'm saying hi. And because I want to now see, how does your community engage me? Because you could be the nicest person on the planet. You could have the greatest platform on the planet. But if your community is hostile and toxic, I want nothing to do with them.
Yep.
So that's like the last and final moment is, do you have a healthy community? And once I saw that and I engaged with that and I found that they were healthy, that was when I was finally like, okay, I'm finding a home here, because on all of these things, they check the boxes. So if you're curious as a streamer, content creator, community builder, what have you, how to reach people that are like this, it's rough because there are a lot of boxes to check. But I would argue these boxes should be checked anyway. Like if you're here for a higher purpose and not just to get famous, then these boxes should be checked anyway, because these matter more to you than any sort of fame or viewership. You care more about, if your community is 20 people, you're going to only grow because you checked all those boxes than if you had 1,000 and no one knows anyone and everyone is yelling at each other. So that was the final step as to what got me really engaged and committed to where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad that the way that you laid that out, of the, here's what I needed and here's the things that I like. I validated this, I verified that, and then it was like, okay, what's the next thing that I need to know so that I can move to a new level of engagement?
Mm.
And then it was like, okay, now I'm in the server, now I'm engaged there. So getting involved in Lux Digital Church, and there, when did you decide that, hey, I'm going to also go and be a streamer myself? Was that later on? Was that around the same
Mm.
time? What was the journey to, hey, I can do some of these same things as well. Because I know you and I had conversations and whatnot, asking lots of questions, thinking through some of those stuff. I just don't know timing on all of that of when you're like, well,
Right.
I could give back. I can do this. There are other people like me that I could reach, or people that are coming from where I was that I could go and be someone that reaches out to them.
So before we jump into that, I saw a fantastic question by Shadow
Oh yeah, go
in
ahead.
chat that I really would love to touch base on. So Shadow asked, do you think that we should be encouraging people to seek a local church ultimately? It can be good that they find solid teaching in an online church, but would it be best to eventually get them connected with local body of believers so that they can have fellowship and support from people close by, and they can use their spiritual gifts within the local body? Now, Shadow, I am a very unique perspective on this viewpoint. I know the majority of individuals will argue you need to seek a physical body. Most people will argue that. I know many that would argue that. I do not. I'm actually probably on the fringes of that where people would, well, have opinions on that. But for me specifically, I have tried to find physical churches. I spent a literal year. I think it was a little over a year, and either one, I was lost in the crowd and there was nothing for me there. It's like I may as well be watching this on TV. So at that point, why not just engage with an online engaging church, which I'm getting more from? Or they were very much, again, for my style of how I am as a person, very much, you need to do this, 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 and this. Be yourself until we change you, which I don't agree with. God made us all very specifically for a very specific reason. So if I go to a physical body and they're like, hey, you don't look like us, you don't talk like us, you're not into the things we're into, well, that's fine. We'll teach you how to not be into what you're into and be into what we're into. So I actually found that within my year of trying to find a physical church that I actually only found more and more push away from the physical church. And it was something that I actually confided in the pastors at Lux. I talked to them about this. I was like, I'm trying to find something physical because I'm told that I need to do this. And I couldn't to this day. I'm actually going to a physical church right now. One of my great buddies, St. Barrett, brought up a point. He's like, hey, just because this church, you don't agree with their theology, or they don't know you exist, or you could just watch them online anyway, because that's about the engagement you're getting. You should still go because you can meet people who are Christians, arguably. So I would say, do you need to have a home church that is a physical body? Absolutely not. I will say that my spiritual growth has only gone exponentially compared to when I was in a physical church or any physical church I've been into since. And I've never felt more at home where I am now than when I am in a physical church with fellow believers. I think that the Holy Spirit, as well as, God is sovereign. He can do as he wishes. The internet does not hold him back. The internet does not hold this Holy Spirit back. I have felt more close with people who are thousands of miles away than I have with someone who's in the same room with me. And I think that if you want to meet people, and that's a thing you want to do, then yeah, you should get plugged into a physical body. But do I think that needs to be your church? Like you cast off everything else? Like, no, this is my church. I do not believe that has to be the case. I strongly encourage people to get engaged with people, in person, if that's the type of person you are, because everyone is different and built differently. I think that's fantastic. But I don't think you have to cast away digital churches just because you think that you have to go to a physical church or you are not practicing in the body of Christ and being saved in that aspect and being grown in that aspect. I think that's something that a lot of people are misled, because God is at work in the digital space. God is at work in Lux Digital Church. And but not in this, I mean this not to be in any sort of brag or anything, but I'm proof of that. And there's so many more people that are proof of that. So many more people that are proof of that.
What I will say is, depending upon what denomination your church is, different churches will take different positions on whether you can be a church or not be a church if you're not physically present with each other. The Church.digital, we absolutely see that there are churches that are making an impact, that are digital only, they're VR only, they're in-game only, wherever that may be. They are the gathering of believers in the space. One of the things that I like to point out, this is me personally, not speaking for the Church Digital necessarily, but I don't know that too many would disagree with this, is as Paul is going through and doing the things he's doing, he doesn't cease to be in relationship with the church in Corinth because he's
Mm,
not there. He is still guiding and leading them. That's why we have letters to the church in Corinth, because
right.
he is still relationally present with them when he is physically absent from them. And
Mm,
so I don't think we have a view of things that is we have to tangibly be present physically for something to actually be real. And it's like, this is just not how the world operates and works. If I suddenly got a letter in the mail that was from my stepdad who passed away before COVID, it would be present for me in the moment now, even if it was written 5 years ago, got lost in the mail, and it suddenly shows up. It wouldn't be negated as being real or valid because he's not physically actually able to be with me. It would still be real. The relationships are real when they're online, the same way that relationships were real long distance beforehand when you had pen pals, you sent letters.
hmm
Um, I would be hard pressed to tell anybody whose grandkids live in another state you don't have real grandkids because they're not physically present with you.
Good
Um,
point.
so I can just go down this route of things that we do in
Mm,
life that, yeah, you know what? If I had grandkids, I'd want to hug them. I can't hug them on a Zoom call. I don't have any grandkids yet. Maybe someday, who knows? Maybe I won't. My kids aren't sure they want kids. But I'll tell you what, when Bootstraps and I are able to get together and hang out and give each other a hug, we're going to do that. You know,
yeah.
we value that. And so there's something that can't be replaced with that. So yes, there's something that can't be replaced when you're physically present. I won't deny that. For some people, as Campfires and Dragons St. Bear was putting in there, for some people, it's really a case by case basis.
Mm,
Some people absolutely they need to be physically present, and I like what St. Bear was had told you as well about sometimes you need to be in the church for the people in the church, not for what you get. We have too much of a consumer mentality around things that if I'm not getting something out of it, I didn't get anything out of the message today. I didn't get anything out of the singing today. I didn't get any. Why are you supposed to get something out of it? We're there to worship God. Aren't you there to give something? What are you bringing when you come in and building relationships, finding people? So there's a whole gamut there. It's a bigger question to Shadow Tuner, I think,
oh, for sure.
than anyone can answer.
It's
And
a
I would
great question, though.
right. It's one that 20 years from now we'll have a better answer to. But for right now, some denominations are going the level of no, if you're not physically present, it's not a church. Don't call it a church. You can't be a church. The federal government hasn't figured it out in the United States. I don't know that other countries have figured it out to how to classify an online only church. All I know is they're real relationships. There's real presence of Christ there. The Holy Spirit is present when we're gathered together
Hmm
and people are growing in their faith. So impact and community is happening. You want to call it a church? Okay. You don't want to call it a church? Okay. But I definitely see life impact and change.
I think that it's the other thing too, which is hard for a lot of people experience wise to see because it's such a unique example, and I wish everyone was able to experience it. But like you were saying, Flat Cap, like when we hang out and we see each other, it's like we're just chatting, like we were just chatting yesterday. You know, whether
Oh
we're
yeah.
talking about whiskey or anything like that, like it's fantastic. But it's one of those things where there are other people online like St. Bear or Mark or Chino or Druzy where when I see them in person, it's not like, oh, hi, I'm Boots. Nice to meet you. No, it's those conversations just, it's as if they were yesterday and they're continuing. And you feel like you've known this person in person for as long as you've actually known them. And it's an experience that it's so hard to describe. And it's one of those where until you experience it, it's hard to grasp truly what it is. And that's when you really feel, oh, wow, yes, this is community. This is Christ. This is the Holy Spirit. It's fantastic. And I encourage you, there are some things that you brought up in a follow-up, Shadow, which I love the engagement. It's fantastic, and I'm here for it. When it comes to helping those literally in the community, like sending food, being there with people, engaging with them in person. So if you aren't a part of Lux Digital Church or heard of them in any way, shape, or form, check them out because they do have programs within the church itself that, like, if someone is hospitalized, just had a kid, or life happens, we will send meals to them. We recently actually had a situation where something happened and one of our pastors literally went to that person. So just because we are a fully online digital church, it doesn't mean that we still don't engage with the real world, because it's important, as well as missions. We go to Africa almost every year. It's one of those things where we are doing everything the physical church does, either just differently or even more so because we're actually engaged in the online space as well. The only difference, we just don't have a physical location. It's really the only, I mean, there are other differences too, but they're moot points really. So yeah, there's a lot of understanding of like concerns with like, oh, but what about these things? Like when it's coming to helping and being there with people, that if you are in a fully online, healthy church, those things should be addressed one way or the other as well. But I appreciate that engagement. That was fantastic. Point of question, Shadow. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you address bringing food. I've done that too with people. We set up a send food, sign up for food. You can send gift certificates, things like that. You can ask, like, I've done those things for someone who was in Florida. I don't live in Florida. Like, it would take me 24 hours to drive to this person's house, but I could have food show up in 20 minutes,
Yeah.
But you did mark another thing or point another thing in there, anointed by oil and prayer. So, and this also brings in other things like baptism and things like that too, that again, I'm going to say you have to solve that theologically and denominationally. I'm not here to tell you how to do that, but you could have someone show up in a video call who's present with the person while the church is on the video call with that. So if I, as a pastor, couldn't be there, I could have a representative who is closer be able to physically visit. So if you can find a way, you can address some of those things that you can't do physically by having someone stand in, having someone closer, not putting all the responsibilities on just one person or the pastor of the church to be able to do. But yeah, there are definitely things that we haven't figured out yet how to do in digital spaces, and the physical church has advantage over us. We're not necessarily trying to replace it from the standpoint of thinking every physical church should close down. No, I don't think anyone's thinking that.
No, not at all.
We're reaching people that the physical church isn't reaching.
Right. It's just we're working together, really, is what it is. It's we are reaching people that they will never reach, and they're reaching people that we won't reach. It's just the name of it. That's just how it is. And that's great. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love with digital space is when you are in a Discord community, you can be engaged every day of the week, where most of the
doors
time,
never close.
Most of the time, as I've worked in physical churches, I get to see people Sunday for an hour, and I know nothing about what's going on in their life the rest of the week. And so there's disadvantages to being in person too. But I appreciate it, and your thoughts there. Yeah, there's different expressions of church that have different strengths, and that's absolutely true. And I want to take and build on all of those different strengths that we have to build up the body of Christ wherever people are at.
Right.
Well, I don't remember what question I asked you other than, before we went on the sidetrack, but appreciate that. It was really
that was good.
A good side conversation there, because no doubt people have that question, and and there are Christians. We talked about earlier of we won't all agree on everything. You and I don't agree on everything. There are some Christian Twitch streamers who are, no, you have to find a physical church. You have to. Let's help you find and do that. I don't have anything wrong, or I don't have anything against that. I just don't have it as a box that says it has to.
It's not a hill to die on.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes. Like when it comes to it, if you want a physical or digital, that's not a hill for me to die on. It comes down to the person and what it is that you need. And God knows you better than I ever will.
And there, like I said, there's also something that I'll just say, I don't know that the digital church has figured out worship well. singing
Mm.
along. I've been in the Zoom calls with a bunch of people. I've been in the Discord chat with a bunch of people. It's not the same as being physically present for singing. I would say the thing that I think comes as close to it as possibly can is actually not a worship service necessarily, but it's music streamers who are
Mm.
doing their own worship. And
Yeah.
I, as a person in chat, request the song I want. They sing
Yeah.
it. And myself and others are engaged with emojis and dancing in the chat from a level of that. If you do go digital, you can go into VR. VR, you can go a little bit further. You can actually hear
Right.
and sing and do all of those things. But from a strictly digital standpoint, I don't think that singing and worship is better, online than it is in
It's not
person.
yeah. It's definitely, you're not filling the room with powerful. I think worship is unique though, because I've also been in some churches where it's like a rock concert, and I feel the same way, where it's almost like I'm
Yeah,
not
it's a performance.
worshiping.
Yeah, it's a performance. You're not worshiping. You're there watching a show. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that. I'm also like, for me, worship, and again, this is weird because I mean, where I am, I'm all for that, like small church, old school organ worship where it fills the room. Like everybody, and it doesn't matter if you, because I can't sing. It doesn't matter if you can sing. It doesn't matter. You just you worship, and it's beautiful like that. Oof, which is funny because it's like I'm a totally digital guy, but like when it comes to worship, that just hits something. Like that's just, I don't know, warm and fuzzy.
I miss the worship so much. One of the things. So this is just a side tangent here. I work with an organization called Brew Pastors. So going into
Oh, I know them.
yeah, so going into a brewery, going into a coffee shop,
Yeah.
being an intentional Christian presence in that space. One of the things that several of the people in that organization have developed and tried to do, it's not everybody, but a couple of them, is go into the brewery and just have like a hymn sing. Like, so you're gathering people. Like, I can't do it. I don't have any musical talent. We already talked about that. But if you had someone who could, you could just,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a night of singing, a night of worship, and we're gonna have beer.
Yeah.
Uh, Martin Luther, most of his songs are written to beer tunes anyway. So just
I love it.
bring out the Martin Luther, have your mug in your hand and sing.
Yes.
Or if you're in a coffee house, you do the same thing there. There are ways to gather to do worship if you need that in another way. But
Yeah.
yeah, side thing.
Those are awesome. And I've seen, so I tried to get connected with that in my local area. Times just, unfortunately, just my schedule doesn't work with, which is unfortunate because there's only two near me, unfortunately. But I have seen some people actually at Lexington Church have posted like small videos of like that exact thing. It is so different. Like, you want to talk about like physical church, you want to talk about digital church, whatever. It's so different when you're in a pub, like a dank, dark pub.
Yep.
And everyone's got a pint or some whiskey, and you just hear just the singing of hymns while people are together. They're drinking, they're eating, they're like, it's like the most raw humanity with hymns. And it's like, it just feels, looks, and it's just different. And it's like that, to be a part of something like that. My gosh, that sounds like an experience.
Yeah.
Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And what I love about that as well is it's going and meeting people where they are. So
Yeah.
So instead of the we are here, you have to come to us in order to hear the gospel, in order to receive relationship, you have to come to us. We go to where you are. You're at the coffee house, you're at the bar, the brewery. If you're around by me, it's I'm going to go to where you are. I'm going to hang out with you. I'm going to find the things that I like. I'm going to go and hang out there with those people. The same way we were talking about which game do you go hang out with? I don't hang out with all those games. I'm not called to World of Warcraft.
Right.
I'm glad there's other people that are, because
they speak the language.
They speak the language. They understand it, and they're able to reach them there. Yeah, that's the model that Jesus said. He came to us. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, why don't we jump forward, I should say, in your journey. When and why did you make a decision to start streaming? And then from there, I don't know if it's a straightforward answer to Campfires and Dragons, but if it is
Yeah,
and it makes sense, go there. If not, we'll come back to
for
Campfires and
sure.
Dragons later.
So about 2 years in, I don't know, maybe it was a year. About a year into Lux, I was seeing what others were doing, what Mark was doing, what Andy was doing, Chino Mage was doing, and I was like, okay, I was given this gift. I was given this rebirth, so to speak. I was given this purpose, this new purpose. How can I give back? Like, what can I do? And it wasn't even like, I'm going to be a missionary. I'm going to spread the word of Jesus. It was just, what can I do to give back to the community that's given me so much? And I was like, let's keep the community growing. Let's go into a space that I don't see anybody and let's build something there. And so I started off streaming League of Legends. Again, spoke the language. I was playing it since 2011, since it came out literally. And I'm half decent enough player that people watch. And it was one of those things where there's not a lot of love in that community, highly toxic, highly competitive. And it's amazing how that community grew based on one simple principle as to what it was, as to like, because again, you're going to reach different people doing different things. Each community, it's going to look so different as to how you reach people. Some are super simplistic, some are super complicated. It just depends on what it is you're trying to be a part of, what you're trying to do. And I found that over my year-ish, a little over a year, of being part of the League community and streaming League of Legends and interacting with these individuals, with my tribe essentially, is I was trying so many different things that I saw other streamers do. And that's where I realized, like Flat Cap was saying, we're not all meant to reach certain people. Each person speaks a different language and is part of different tribes, so to speak. So I could not go to Destiny and stream Destiny. I don't speak their language. I'm not a part of that tribe. I do not know anything about that game. But League of Legends, I know everything about that game, to the point of I know the lore before they changed the lore of the whole game. So it's one of those where I speak it, I know it, and I play it well enough to have people think, oh, it's kind of like Paul. Paul, people think that he was a little cocky because when he came and he rolled out his resume, people are like, yeah, he's kind of arrogant. And it's like, well, no. He had to, because if he didn't, who was going to listen to him? Because no one knew who he was outside of you kill the Jews. Like, yeah. So as someone in the space, it's unfortunate, at least in like an esports style game, you have to have some clout for people to understand, oh, I can sit and listen to this guy because he knows what he's talking about. So, and that's going to come back actually at the end of this. So I was good enough at the game where you didn't have to just listen or watch the stream because you enjoyed hanging out with me. You could watch because you're curious, so how do I play this? How do I do this right? And my niche was playing characters that aren't traditionally meta in ways that could be played and pretty much break the game. So a lot of people like that kind of thing, and it was going great. The downside is, which is where my journey switched and ended, which I take that back, my tangent went a little too far. I need to backtrack a little bit. The one thing that I found engaged people in League of Legends as to how people wanted to be part of the community. It's crazy. You're going to think I'm nuts, and you're going to be like, no, Boots, that's too easy. This is not what it is. I'm telling you, it is. I was nice to people. That was it.
Yeah.
I treated people like people. I treat them like humans. I saw them. I engaged with them positively, and I was supportive. Like literally, I was just nice. That's it. Because it's such a toxic community. That's all I needed to do to get people to ask, why?
Right.
Why are you nice to me? Let me tell you why I'm nice to you. There you go. Start of a conversation. So every community is different. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's the end all be all for everything, but I found that in the community I was engaging with, that was what I needed to do. But then, progress and things are moving on. Well, this comes back to the clout. Well, like Paul, you had to have a resume for people to listen to you. And the downside is, because of that, in League of Legends, it's an esports game, highly competitive. I had to grind ranked games to get high status.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't platinum, why are they going to listen to me? Like if I'm not a high ranking player, they're not going to care if I'm some iron ELO. Sorry for throwing some stuff out there, but like if I'm a nobody skill wise, no one's going to care. And you're engaging with an audience where that's all they care about.
Right.
So you need to have that clout to get there. Not all communities are like that, though. A lot of communities are more community based, which is fantastic and beautiful. But I found that burned me out. I couldn't keep grinding to keep being that player. I was more concerned with the community. I cared more about the people than I cared anything about my stats. And I was finding that to be a problem. And I was finding that I was doing this more for me than for what God had directed me to do. And when I went to NCMS, little NCMS plug, I really was contemplating at that point, the first time I went to NCMS, I was going there to be a League of Legends missionary, outreach, whatever you want to call it. And I found that I was conflicted. I didn't know what I was conflicted about, but I was conflicted about something. And then I came away from NCMS realizing I'm missing something. What is it? I need to hunker down and figure out what it is. And over time, I was like, oh, it's community. I'm solo in this. There's no community. I mean, yes, there's the community online that has been growing because, again, being nice to people and showing people that you can play League of Legends and not be mean. Well, that wasn't the community I was looking for. As a streamer, I needed my own community of people in my corner because I didn't have that. I was very solo at this point. And I found a group of streamers that wanted to kind of like collaborate together and work together in this aspect, which was great. But something was still missing. It wasn't the collaboration of streamers. It wasn't the community there. It was something else entirely. And I found that it was the collaboration of community in terms of the people engaging in stream, the game that you're playing, community, and the people you are working with in your corner, community. It was for me as a person, I need that to be successful. I know there are people out there like Jade who are solo streamers and oh my gosh, they are gifted and they're amazing and they do incredible things. But that's not me. Like we were talking earlier, Flat Cap, like there are some people that they are going to do things that we cannot do. And that's one of them. I cannot do that. So I found, what am I passionate about? What is community based? What do I love? And can talk with the nerds the language that they speak. The only other thing I could think of was Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, I speak the language. I know the lore. I get it. And I've been playing it for a long time, like since 2013. So a long time, playing for a long time. And it's one of those where that's the one game element that I knew for a fact that I could engage with because I speak the language, but then also have that community in the game and the community in my corner to be able to cover all of those bases. And it's been incredible ever since that started. We, Saint Bear and I randomly came together one day. We're like, hey, we should play some D&D. Didn't really think anything of it. We're just like, oh yeah, we're just kind of shooting the breeze. I'm like, hey, we should play some D&D sometime. Then it eventually was like, hey, what if I streamed our D&D? Hey, what if we start a D&D channel?
Yeah.
Hey, what if we collaborate with other content creators and build a Christian Dungeons and Dragons group that actually does the Real Play podcast who are Christians in a space that is notoriously not Christian at all, and showing people that are both non-Christian and Christian, hey, we play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Like actually play Dungeons and Dragons. Like we're not playing Dungeons and Dragons Bible version. We're not playing Dungeons and Dragons for 5-year-olds. We are tackling hard topics. We are having things in game that we need to work out because they also are things that happen in real life. We're not going to shy away from hard topics, both in game and out of game. It's one of those where it's an element to work through so many things that you can't in any other gaming space. And then that's what happened with where Campfires and Dragons is. Like we are a Real Play Dungeons and Dragons podcast, both on Twitch and YouTube. We engage in hard topics that most Christians or people may avoid. And we also play our Dungeons and Dragons to a PG-13 setting because, yes, we're not going to be ridiculous. Like we're not going to be ridiculous and we're not going to be crazy vulgar. We're not going to be crazy sexual. We're not doing any of those tropes that comes to Dungeons and Dragons because those are areas that are not supportive in terms of what we're trying to do. And they're not things that some of us that I personally don't want to be a part of anyway. Like that's not me. But we're also not going to lie about how Dungeons and Dragons are played. Like, yes, you kill people. Yes, you manipulate people. Yes, you might be a bad person, but it's redemptive. That's the key. You can be tackling hard topics of, oh, I'm weaving between good and bad, but there's redemption there to be good. It's not, oh, I'm just bad and there's nothing I can do to not be bad. It's like, no, there is redemption there, and it's beautiful, and it's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we'll come back to that second. I don't know if you saw have a raid coming in from
welcome in, Raiders,
from DJ. So welcome in, DJ.
Welcome
Glad to have you here.
in.
Thank you for bringing your family over. DJ has been on this podcast before, so you'll have to go check
Beautiful.
out that episode. I don't believe that she is out on Spotify and Apple yet, so I will certainly let her know when that happens. But all episodes from
Nice.
season 1 are out on YouTube. All of season 2 is on all 3 platforms, and then I am dishing out the season 1 every other week just to sprinkle them in and highlight everybody. So welcome in. Hope you are doing great. Those who do not know, I am Flat Cap Dapper Pastor, and this is Control Alt Redeem, where we are trying to reset the culture, redeem the space. I bring on great friends of mine like DJ and like Bootstraps Boots, and we talk about what they're doing in Twitch space and other spaces to be salt and light wherever they are. So we were talking about D&D, and I'm going to grab something in a second. So I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, and I'm going to grab something I want to show you.
Sounds good. All right, so I am Bootstraps Boots. A lot of people just call me Boots. I'm part of Campfires and Dragons. We are a real play podcast for Dungeons and Dragons, both on YouTube and Twitch. We stream every Sunday, actually right at this time. We stream at 1 p.m. Central Time every Sunday, and we play Dungeons and Dragons. We are Christian nerds who love Dungeons and Dragons. We got 4 people on the show and 1 DM. And so 5 people total, I guess I should say, because I can count, right? And it's one of those where we tell a redemptive story. We don't shy away from our topics, and we just love the game and want people to know that you can be Christian and play Dungeons and Dragons. And we want people who are not Christian to know, hey, we're Christians, we play Dungeons and Dragons. It goes both ways, and it's beautiful. But yeah, thank you, and welcome to the stream. Whoa, 2nd edition Player's Handbook? No way.
I'm old. I stopped playing at 3rd edition. So
that is nuts.
Back of that.
So wait, these are like the original
I think
you bought back in the day.
I think this one's a reprint. But there's my DM guy.
Holy cow. That is incredible. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we need to get you on for a game is what I'm hearing.
Well, part of my problem is, like I said, I stopped playing 3rd edition. So
no, that's changed since then.
Yeah, and I think at one point when you're talking about Mark teaching how to create a character and all of that, I think I watched one of those and I was like going, I'm totally overwhelmed and I'm lost. There's a lot. There's a lot that's changed, and like I know the old system was hard with THACO and all of that stuff, but
THACO,
it's what I know, and so my my brain, I switched in college from D&D to Fantasy Warhammer, and so that's why I stopped at 3rd edition. Is I shifted over. I played Fantasy Warhammer, and
it was awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I love the versatility of that system as well. Of you're upping this level. Now I can leave this character class, go to a new character class, achieve new skills, and continuously be upping to a new character class. An infinite development of skills that is ongoing. So it's not so it's not the same as here's what you have. You're going up to the next level. And then you can suddenly, now I get a whole bunch of new skills. It's like 2 or 3 episodes of playing, I get a new skill. 2 or 3 adventures or a really long session, and I'm upping some skill. I'm constantly getting better. I liked that mentality better than every time I go.
You're going to play for a year and then.
Right. I'm level 10, and I'll just do a round number. It's 25,000 experience points to be there. Well, to make it to level 11, it's 50 because you double every level. It's like I get nothing until I get to the next level. It's just grind for a long time. No accomplishments, no achievements.
Yeah,
it was hard in the old system.
Yeah, I will say the beautiful thing about Dungeons and Dragons, which is one reason why I find it such a great median, is one, God's the greatest storyteller.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that we're able to do with Dungeons and Dragons is tell a story.
Yeah.
We've been telling stories since the beginning of time. Humans have been doing that. That's how we communicate. It's how we engage. It's how we grow. It's how we build culture and community. And Dungeons and Dragons is that, and it's fantastic. And I find that with Dungeons and Dragons being that median, you get out directly what you put into Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Because again, there is a zero barrier of entry. You could literally get together with your friends tomorrow with a white blank piece of paper and a pencil and play Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, you don't even technically need the piece of paper and pencil. You literally could just play Dungeons and Dragons for free. And it's great because it is a game where you directly get out what you put in. And that's one reason why I find it so rewarding as an element for gaming, is because, you're not relying on a publisher. You're not relying on a company to be like, hey, we're going to make this game and it's going to be the best game. And then you get the game, you're like, I just wasted all my money and time.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you make the game, and what you make of it is literally what you get, which is beautiful. And I love that.
Yeah, Tropical Turtle talking about a previous pastor telling him that he would go to hell for playing D&D. Yeah, I grew up in the Satanic Panic.
Yep.
And it went well beyond just D&D. It was anything that they could tear down in the culture was satanic. Anything that was not overtly Christian was satanic. And it was like, as soon as you go to investigate and do that, investigate for yourself and realize I can take anything and turn it for evil. I could take a pencil and turn it for evil. The pencil is not created for
100%.
evil. A pencil, what I would actually would say, is created for benevolence and for a intentionally use for the blessing of myself or others. I can still turn it for evil. So most things might be neutral as far as a knife. A knife is neutral. It can be created for lots of different purposes, and I can use it for evil. Right. I can use it for good. So I think, and to go back to, you were talking about how to live out and play the game. And one of the things is, I don't think it makes any difference what character class and what alignment you play, because you have to be true to the character class and to the alignment that you're playing. And you make decisions based on that, which is teaching you how to think through, how to behave, and how to act. So now I can take that skill I've learned on how to play a lawful evil character, and I can think through all of the logistical things of thinking through and go, okay, so now how do I think about acting as a law-abiding citizen? Because I'm playing a lawful evil character, but now I'm going to take the evil away and I'm just going to be a law-abiding citizen. Okay, now how do I think about that as a Christian? How do I treat people in a Christ-like way? Because that's truly who my identity is. So how do I do that? So there are skills that you learn even if you play someone that is a lawful evil character, which, by the way, I never play lawful alignment. It just drives me nuts. I don't want that. Does it lawful evil, lawful neutral, lawful good? No, I don't play lawful. So but it's like, because I don't like the limitations it gives me. So I don't want to be bound by that. I like playing chaotic characters. It's much more fun.
You're not wrong. It is probably the more, if you took a poll, it's probably the most favored is chaotic anything. Yeah. I will say one of the other beautiful things about Dungeons and Dragons that you don't get elsewhere, like you said, you can put yourself in shoes of something you normally would not be to get a better idea of it. And again, whether you're playing to be a redemptive story of like, hey, yeah, I'm playing an evil character, but they're going to be redeemed in the end, is a beautiful way to play a game. But also, you can just play an evil character or a neutral character or a good character, whatever, and take what you learn from that and then use it to your normal life. Like, you're like, oh, but Boots, why do I want to take an evil character and use it within my life? It's like, well, you can recognize it. So if you yourself are finding, oh, I'm acting in this way. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I was acting like that in this game.
Yeah.
Hold on. Pump the brakes. I need to rethink what I'm doing. This isn't okay. Or you get on a flip side, but where, your alignment doesn't matter at all. How often do we get to be in a safe place with friends around a table and be able to have conflict with them? Where then at the end of the game, it's done. That was the game. That was the characters. That wasn't us. You can practice conflict resolution in a game where it's a safe space and there's zero backlash for it, which I think in our day and age, especially online, people don't know how to deal with conflict how we're supposed to.
Yeah, we have lost the art. I'll say it this way: we've lost the art of conflict and disagreement and being in relationship. Like, You used to, no matter what party you voted for,
Mhm.
sit and argue and argue and argue, and then go have a cup of coffee and a piece of pie and hang out with the person
Exactly.
afterwards, because you were
Yeah.
in relationship and the relationship was more important than what side you were on. And you're absolutely right. There was a level of somebody wants to go and do the thing that you're being called to in the quest, and somebody else wants to selfishly not do that and do something else, or they just want to
Yeah.
be obnoxious because they're fully portraying their character honestly
Yep.
as how they've
Yep.
developed it, and it's detrimental to the party, but they're in the party anyway, and so you've got to deal with
Yep.
the consequences of that person. Oh, that's not like real life at all, where you have a detrimental person that you're in relationship with because they're in your family and you have no choice and you can't get rid of them. And like there are so many
Yeah.
valuable social lessons and
Mhm.
that you get out of D&D that's just fantastic, I think. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
seen stop seeing
it's great.
people as people, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, the other thing too is like some people are afraid of conflict. That in Dungeons and Dragons, which we actually see within our own game that we're playing on Sunday, some of our players have had conflict with each other, and it's only actually progressed and grown the story and grown the characters as a whole.
Yeah.
So like certain characters have evolved and changed over time because that conflict took place. Whereas if that conflict never happened,
Oh, true.
nothing changed. So like you can have that. And I'm not saying that we have any annoying characters on Sunday. Maybe my own character, who knows? But it's one of those where if you have someone in your party that is annoying and they are like derailing your party because they're playing their character, well, just because that's what their character is now, it doesn't mean that's what their character is going to be. Which means if you don't have that conflict and you don't resolve it,
Yes.
that character will just continue to be that character. Whereas if you call them out and you have that conflict and you resolve that conflict, then that character has an opportunity to change. So it's one of those things where if you're afraid of conflict in the game isn't going to grow,
Yeah.
which is why it almost forces people to be involved in that, which is beautiful because then they also learn those real skills in real life, how to resolve and deal with conflict. Because again, like you said, it's a lost thing. People burn bridges over the small thing. It's not like, hey, I disagree with you. Let's go have a beer. It's no, I disagree with you. Get out of my life.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
and take that
whoa.
into where the community gathers in Discord. Like those skills of dealing with conflict and trying to seek resolution around it. And, oh, we got to hang out in Discord afterward. I've got to see you in the chats and I'm upset with you. Like, how do you deal with that? Well, you learn, you don't just go blasting it to the whole community to tell everybody what you have a problem with the other person. You learn all of those things and then you're practicing it literally within the scope of a few moments later and throughout the rest of the week afterwards. And there's some really good stuff that you can learn and apply there. So you've decided to go in this direction. You got together, you're like, hey, can we stream that? How did the fullness of Campfires and Dragons then get birthed? So it started with you and St. Bear. Where did it go from there?
Right. So Bear and I are very logically driven, practicality. Like let's plan. Like we're not so much the let's just improv everything. We like to have a plan. So we actually like literally started the conversation of, hey, do we want to do this? Because if we do, we need to start doing A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And the first thing we did was we were on a Discord call. And I vividly remember this call because it was when the first like spark of Campfires and Dragons came to be. We're on a call and we're like, okay, if we're going to make this happen, if this is going to be a thing, we need to like have a group. It can't just be you and me. Like D&D takes more than two people. I mean, you can technically play D&D with two people, but it's not for a real play show. Like that's not, I mean, you gotta be real good if you can. So we were talking, we're like, okay, who would we want? Like your wish list, who would you want on the show? And we came together of the same mind of we need to be very specific with who we pick to be on the show because we're already different because we're going to be one of the only, if only, Christian D&D troops out there. And two, we need to think of how we want to play the game. And we made it very intentional with the people. We didn't pick like, oh, who has the most viewers, who's in the D&D space already. We didn't cherry pick people who we knew would create instantaneous success because that's not the point. What we did was we reached out to people who we knew We didn't. Well, one, we didn't know if they worked well together at all. We had no idea because we don't know until we get to the table. And we actually specifically chose people who never played before. So we have one player who's never played before at all. We have one player who played once before, but it was a very long time ago. And then we have 2 veteran players. And then we have one who's Bear as a DM who's never DM'd online before, but has DM'd in person. So arguably, if you were to pitch this to like a film crew, they'd be like, you're insane. That isn't going to go anywhere. You don't have any clout. You have no seasoned anything in the digital space with this. Like this is a dumb idea. What are you doing? But it's so amazing because not only now are we, again, one of the only, if only, Christian Dungeons & Dragons troops on Twitch, but on top of it, we have a range of cast where we have the brand new player all the way to the veteran player of 12 years to show not only do Christians play Dungeons & Dragons, and you can, and it's awesome, but anybody can play Dungeons & Dragons. It does not matter.
Yeah.
Which is also beautiful because if someone comes with the excuse of, hey, I can't play because I'm a Christian, I bet you anything they're going to then say the excuse of, I can't play because I don't know how or I'm not good at it. Well, let me tell you, 1, you're a Christian, you play D&D, and 2, I suck at D&D and I've been playing for 13 years. So like, jump on the train, let's go. This is awesome. You're not supposed to be good at D&D.
Well, like, what actually constitutes being good? Do your dice roll a natural 20 every time you roll? Is that what makes you good at D&D?
Right.
Like,
right?
Or are you an enjoyable person to spend time with as I'm playing the game? Like, what is it that makes you a good player? Oh, I know how to create backstory. I know how to create conflict. I know how to follow the like, I'm not sure what actually.
I would argue.
Yeah.
Right. My argument is, because again, when people think of gaming, they're like, oh, well, you have to be good. And it's like, well, no. There is no gauging of good. Like if I had to, and I don't even think this is true, but if I had to say what makes you a good D&D player, like how do I know I'm good? If I had to pin it to one thing, which again, I still would argue this isn't technically the end all be all if you're a good Dungeons & Dragons player, is you have to show up. And when I say show up, I don't mean show up to play the game. I mean show up and be present.
Right.
Be there.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, if there's one thing that I would say to be a good D&D player, that's what you have to do. I would even argue that like that's still not the end all be all because people play Dungeons & Dragons for so many different things, so many different reasons. Like I was part of a group that I actually stopped going to because again, I was not meant to be in that group. I didn't have fun. They didn't like it was a situation of, and I'll frame it a little better. Like they played Dungeons & Dragons to get together on a Saturday afternoon to spend time together. Did they care at all about the game? No, they cared about being together.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And that is awesome. And that is okay. I was there to play the game though, because I didn't know any of them. So I was just there to be like a fill-in to be like, hey, I know a guy, he wants to play. But I wasn't a friend of that group. But that group got together every Saturday, had snacks, had soda, had what have you, and they had a fantastic time playing together. But a seasoned hardcore D&D player like me would be like, they're not playing D&D. Well, no, they are. That's just their Dungeons & Dragons, and it's amazing. But me personally, I know that I can't play with that group because that's not how I play Dungeons or wanted in that aspect to play Dungeons & Dragons. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's you show up. Show up. That's when you're a good Dungeons & Dragons player.
Yeah. I would say there's a little bit more to being a good DM than being a good player, but we're not going to go in that direction.
That you could probably compartmentalize a little more for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But also, I still think you're right there that a good DM has to show up, has to be prepared, has to listen to the group, has to give the group, the party, enough things that it is striving for and trying to achieve, and not malicious towards the group in any way. Because I've played with DMs that would get malicious, and it's kind of like it's my game and you're not doing what I want, and so that would happen. Or my best friend who DM'd all the time. Every time we would get magical items, the next time we would play, a rust monster would come and consume our
Oh
magical
no,
items.
the worst monster ever.
Yes, we would like, we were never allowed to have magical items. I got a sword +1. Well, it's not going to last next session. It'll be gone.
Right. It's now gone.
It's gone.
And the thing is, okay, little rant tangent here. Dungeons and Dragons is a collaborative storytelling game.
Yes.
If you are a DM, it is not you versus them. It is all of you collaboratively telling a story. It's not just the DM telling a story.
Well,
it's not just the players telling a story. You are all telling a story. And it is not a DM. You're not trying to TPK your party every time. You're not trying to put the fear of God in them. You're trying to tell a story together. You should not be out to get your party. That's not being a DM. Just throwing that out there.
Well, to be fair, and it wasn't about telling a story. He bought modules. So the modules would often say, here's what your party level can be. He would say, you're too powerful. Yep. I'm just going to do this to get you to the right level you're supposed to be. And it's like, how about you just modify every creature by that 1 point that I'm going to get?
Yeah, bring it down.
Like, just take, and every time that you roll for the character's hit points that I have to do, you just add. Like, it just takes me the same amount of time, but you don't take my weapon away.
Right.
But it's like, no, this is what the book says. I'm following the rules of the module. I'm reading the story of what you're supposed to do. We're following the module through. That was how he DM'd back, in middle school and high school. So.
Right. And I would say using modules for like newer players is fantastic. Because like if you're a first time DM, yeah, I use modules because you may not, well, how do I say it? You might need those training wheels. Like, you know what I mean? Like it tells you everything you need to know. It's got everything mapped out for you. As a first time DM, that is not a bad way to go. I would argue though, I don't use modules. I prefer creating an improvisation and going with things and starting with nothing and creating something. So like you should get to a point, and again, everyone's different. So I'm not saying this is the end all be all. Some DMs, that's all they use is modules, and that's okay. But I would say you should strive to get to a point of being like, hey, this is now our story, not this book's story. Well, and there is a difference.
Yeah. And I would say there's a different skill level of someone who is really good at a module, who is bringing you into that story, who's capturing you into it, and you are owning that. And because I've played with people that can do that. But on the other hand, when I first went to do DM, oh my goodness, modules were horrible. I couldn't get, like, okay, I got to go read next, and you're waiting for me while I go read this, so then I can say what we're doing next. Like, it was like, scrap the module, create on the fly, have a like a bullet point of things that are, here's your goals, here's your accomplishment, here's the things, here's a map.
How you get there, who knows?
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. I would take the approach of at times of we're going to go west. Okay, the direction you're going, you run into this. Well, what if we'd have went east? Well, you'd run into the exact same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which direction you choose. The same thing is going to happen because you set west. However, you were actually turned around and you went east. I didn't tell you that, but that's what happened.
It's fantastic. There's this. So I was actually talking, Pones is in chat here, and we were talking about setting up one shots for NCMS and things like that. And then we were, getting into how we run one shots as DMs and things of that nature. And we actually ran a one shot with the group, and I was DMing it. It didn't end up airing because we had some unfortunate technical issues, but we're planning on re-recording it at some point. But it's a one shot, and one of the things that opponents asked me, it's like, would we have ended up at that house regardless? And it's like, yes. Like when as a DM you're running a one shot, you have only a certain amount of time in a one shot because it's not like an extended campaign. You only have a certain amount of time to finish it. So there was like a hidden passage in the basement of a house. It's like, in this town, there were like 15 houses.
Yeah.
It did not matter what house you went to, whatever first house you went to, that was the house that had it.
Yes, totally get that.
That's how you got to do it.
Yeah, it's like, I want you to get here. I am the DM. I have the power to bring you to the thing I want you to go to. You can resist and go a different direction, and you're still going to end up where I want you to.
It's very much a Noah situation. No, not Noah. Sorry. Jonah.
Yeah.
Wow. Brain.
Yep. Okay.
Toasty in here. But yeah, Jonah situation. You're going to get there one way or the other.
Yeah. As you have gone in the direction of being a content creator and community developer and those things, what have been some obstacles that you personally have faced? And they could be things on stream, they could be things in real life. They like, what have been the obstacles that you have had to overcome going in that direction?
There are three things that I would say are the biggest obstacles you come into. And I will say tech is actually not one of them, because you can have a $15 camera off Amazon, a $10, well, obviously you're not going to find a $10 mic. Well, I take that back. I've seen people stream with earbuds with you literally can do it on under $100. The most expensive thing you're going to need is your PC. So, I mean, I don't count that under $100, but like the biggest barrier of entry to streaming is just having a computer.
Yep.
And even then, arguably, depending what you're streaming, you could use a phone. Like the barrier of entry is tech, I would actually argue, is not the biggest. Like if you think tech is your biggest problem, it is not. It's actually quite doable if you understand the element you're trying to go into and how to meander and make your way through. The biggest three things for me is knowing yourself is the hardest part. Because again, if I had known myself well enough, I'd have been doing Dungeons and Dragons since day one. But I didn't, because I was trying to discover and figure out and try to be obedient to God's calling and what have you. So it's like that was one. The second one is mental health. That's the hardest. Because in streaming, when you're streaming 4 days a week, 6 hours at a time, playing a game that might be mentally taxing, like League of Legends, was toxic. So it was very mentally taxing. I would disregard my mental health until it all hit me at once. So mental health.
You mentioned grinding and working on that was taxing on mental health. So what was it that was bringing your mental health down, and then how did you cope with that?
Right. So the biggest thing with mental health for me, one, as a streamer, no matter what element you're going to be in, it can be isolating. It doesn't matter the game. If you're a solo streamer, if you're a solo streamer, it is going to be isolating because it is literally you behind a computer playing a game. And that's something that you need to be aware of, because if you're someone who needs more interaction than just a chat going on the corner there talking to you, and sometimes you're going to get days where you have no chat at all, you are extremely isolated, and it can feel really bad or cold or distant. It's just a bad time. Then you add on, depending on the game you're playing, if it's a toxic game or not, that can add on the people you're interacting in the games themselves. And I think that the biggest problem mental health wise with streamers is streamers personality wise, there is like a similarity between streamers. We all have like the go get it mentality of we're going to go make something. And if you don't see results, you're your biggest critic. You are your biggest critic. It is you. That is the hardest right there, mental health wise, because I've had days where, like, again, League of Legends, I just knew I had to stop because one, I would either be so hard on myself, like, oh, I didn't hit plat today. I need to keep grinding to hit it because I'm nothing if I don't do that. Or I had no one in chat today. What did I do wrong? Or everyone was extra mean to me and toxic today. It had to have been me. I was doing something wrong. Even though, and again, those are all ridiculous things. Yeah. Like, it's not your fault in any of those aspects, but we get in our head, and that's the So when it comes to that, the way to combat that really comes back to the first thing, is finding yourself and who you are. Some people are the most non-competitive people on the planet, and water off the back, they could care less. And that's great, because those elements, they thrive in. Because you could insult them 5 ways to Sunday, they don't care.
Yeah.
You know? And that's powerful. That's amazing. But I knew myself, I needed to be in an element that had less me and more community, right, and more of a mentality. So for me, it was one of those situations where my change wasn't changing what I was doing in that game. It was changing my approach as a whole to what I'm doing online, period. I'm not saying that's everyone's thing. Like, hey, I'm feeling down. Oh, I'm just going to cancel it all and move on to the next thing. I'm just saying that's what happened for me. And that was a very unique situation. I would argue that when it comes to some of the core things you can do to help with mental health in the streaming space is have people in your corner. So have community. I'm not saying you have to stream with a bunch of people, but you have some sort of community. Have people praying for you. Have people to talk to vent to, who understand where you're coming from. You should have other streamers that you talk to. I'm not saying you collaborate. I'm not saying you play the same games. I'm just saying they will understand where you're coming from more than most people will. So having people in your corner 100% is a great way to help combat that. Two, getting plugged in into a digital space. A lot of creators have their own Discords. You need to get plugged into other Discords. You cannot be only in your Discord. You need to be plugged into community elsewhere, because your community, you're plugged in, but it's different. It's like saying that the pastor's going to church when they preach. It's like, no, a pastor should still have a church community outside of them preaching, because you also need to be taught and poured into, not just the other way. So it's the same mentality. So I would say that that's a good way to combat mental health issues when it comes to streaming. Now, again, it's not the end all be all. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. I'm not a healthcare professional in any way, shape, or form. And my situation is unique compared to majorities. So what I did might not be the solution for you, but it's something to at least think about.
Yeah. Well, and I do see the being alone and isolating is usually a precursor to mental health getting worse. So because it's just a pattern that people do. You start to isolate from people. Is one of those things that as your mental health declines, you isolate, you withdraw, you do all of those things. So if you start out in a place where you do not have others in a community that you can go to, it's one of those things where I have for years tried to help set up pastor support groups where pastors get together and we talk about what's going on in life, where we're struggling, pray for one another, read scripture, tell our life stories, do those things. Why? Because nobody understands what a pastor is going through except another pastor. You could be an elder in a church for 50 years and you still don't know what it's like to be a pastor of a church. So no one is going to understand what it's like to be a content creator and a streamer except another content creator and streamer. And no one's going to know what it's like to do that as a Christian unless you're another Christian who's done it. And it doesn't mean you had to be successful at it. It's just
not at all.
It's just that to understand the toll, the mental, all of those things, and it doesn't mean I have to have the same personality, but I can respond to it differently. I can react to it differently because of my personality, but I'm going to understand the pressures, the toll, the thought process, the struggle, because I've journeyed through it. And it's one of those things that I think we don't value enough is whatever struggle you have gone through, you have that to be able to give to somebody else following behind you. And
Our
so,
testimonies.
yeah. So, Samarella was in here earlier, and one of the things she had shared last week is that she is beginning to be able to do that. So she's gone through some health issues, those kinds of things, not going to go into details, but now she's been asked to turn around and to pour into the life of those people who are starting that health journey of, I'm facing this. Is there hope at the other side of it? She's on the coming out of it side and now being able to give back to. So it's like, not that, and I'll use the Joseph language, not that God, did evil so that it could be turned to good, but no matter what happens in life, there is an ability for God to turn it for good. So when life happens, God can make good come out of it. He can redeem it, to go back to your point earlier, redeem what we're doing in the game, can redeem what we're doing in life. What we've experienced in life, the hard, can redeem somebody else who's going through the hard later on after us.
For sure. And then I did also just remember the third thing. The third thing is, don't think you know everything and don't expect yourself to know everything.
Ooh, that's good.
Because I can tell you right now, I don't care if you've been streaming for a day or 20 years, you don't know everything and everything's going to break. Like, that's just how it is. Audio's not going to always work. Mic's not always going to work. Lights aren't always going to work. Your programs aren't always going to work. The game's not always going to work. You will never have a perfect stream. It's just not possible. But that's also the beauty of it, because you're always learning. So that's the third thing, is just remember, you are not expected to know everything, because you will not.
Well, and even what was true a year ago on Twitch doesn't mean it's remained the same a year later. Yeah. What channels are available and who's watching what channels change, how they push people into the algorithm, into the recommended, how you can request to be on front page. I mean, those things all change and morph and grow. Adding ad revenue, adding sharing. Oh, wait, you don't have to be a partner to have, or a affiliate anymore. Now you can run ads and do stuff. Like, it's going to change. A year from now, it will be different from today. So the learning curve is you have to keep learning, you have to keep experimenting. When something stops continuing to move forward, well, now it's time to learn and do something different.
100%. Yeah. And it's something where the biggest advice, if you're thinking about being a content creator, just do it.
Yeah.
Don't think about excuses. Just go live. I can promise you that every streamer starting off, I don't care if you have 1.5 million subscribers or 1, you all started at the same exact place where your stream wasn't perfect, your background didn't look good, your mic and your lighting, what were you doing? That's where everyone started. Your first streams are going to be horrible, and that's okay. And it's beautiful because that's where you learn the most. So embrace it. Just do it.
Yeah. And just Campfire and Dragons, St. Bear saying, get 1% better every day. Jate says that all the time. I think that's who I heard him say first, is to get 1% better every day. So get your lighting 1% better today. Tomorrow, get your sound 1% better. I mean, learning, growing, doing those things, which I love the idea of planning to experiment with something, see if it works. I'm going to go do this one new thing. I'm going to commit to this length of time. I'm going to give it that amount of time, and then I'm going to stop and evaluate. Is the effort and the energy I'm putting into this thing getting the results I hope? Is it not there but on the path? Or if I continue to do this for the same length of time, do I expect different results? And the thing is you learn, to go back to learn about yourself every time you do that. So you may not have got to the point of being able to do Dungeons and Dragons and plan to do that if you hadn't taken Fortnite and did that first, because you had to learn all these other technical skills. You had to learn other skills of creating a loving space, so you could bring all of those skills you learned there into doing D&D. Maybe it wasn't a sidetrack. Maybe it was the intentional right path to get to. All along. It was
God's plan is greater than ours, right?
It didn't matter which house you picked. It was going to be that house every time.
It's that house anyway.
Yes.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right.
Yeah, ask the question who you can partner with. Do you need to be another car on the road, or is there another car already headed somewhere you can hop into? I love that question, because yes, some people might be called to be a streamer, but some people might be called to be a mod. Some people might be called to be into chat. Some people might be called to do other things and not called to start something on their own. We sometimes have that mentality of, I'll go do it. It goes back to the I can do it, I'll be successful doing it alone idea. I love how as you were doing Campfire and Dragons, it developed as community first. Who do we invite? How do we move that? More than I'm going to, or the two of us are going to go make this happen.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing too is, again, how everyone is different. Another car on the road, there's no wrong answer with who you partner with. Everyone's going to be different, and the element you're in is different. Now, there are groups out there that are more like what we do at Campfires and Dragons, where we are genuinely a team together and we do this together. There are other groups out there that I know of that I watch on Twitch that they are totally, completely, and utterly different streamers. They all stream different content. They all stream different audiences. They do not do anything the same.
Right.
But what they do is they all come together once a month and they do a giant collaboration stream. That's what they do. So don't think that I only stream, what have you, Rocket League. Oh, I can't play with, or I can't collaborate with an Overwatch person. It's like, well, no, you can form a sort of community through that. It's just going to look way different than like what we're doing Campfires and Dragons, where no, we're intentionally bringing in content creators to be part of the team versus we're just tangentially working within the same Twitch space. Yeah. It's going to look different for everyone and what it is you're looking to do. I would just argue that no matter what you're trying to do, unless, again, you've been gifted which some people are, just like Jade, I would recommend that most of us can't do the solo run indefinitely. I would recommend you are going to need some sort of community one way or the other. And I highly recommend thinking on that.
Yeah, and even if you are called to be the solo streamer, doesn't mean you're solo community. You
Right.
you might need the people in Discord because that's not where you thrive. So you might need people in different aspects. Or to another point of, you might not be an editor, so you need editors to edit the content to so it gets put out wider than just live. So there's always a place for collaboration to take place with other people.
True.
And people to be able to be the body, to be the hands and the feet, to come alongside of what you're doing. Yep, you were saying the same thing. All different parts of the body.
All parts of the body.
We're tracking.
Beautiful.
We're tracking.
It's great.
So those are some of the things to overcome. What have been some blessings that you've experienced as being a streamer? Either a story of impact in somebody's life or two, or things that have happened for you personally?
Yeah, a few things. I'll speak to both streams because I did start with a solo stream. The most impactful thing that I had in that stream, which again, know your one, know your community, know where you are being placed. I think the biggest thing that you need to really contemplate when you're going to start streaming is what is your identity and who it is you can reach. And you might not know right out the gate. That could take time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But one of the most impactful things that I had experienced in League of Legends, and I'm not going to say too much of their story because their story is theirs, and they're not watching this, but I still want to be respectful. I had played a game with a bunch of randoms on the Rift. We were just playing, and there was the group they were playing with, the team they were playing with, again, all random people, and they were all toxic, yelling at each other whenever mistakes happened. And when a mistake happened, they would jump on this one player and just be absolutely vicious. And all I did was say, hey, we got this. Hey, we got the next one. Hey, next time you come in, you ping me, we're going to get this. Then it got to the point where the other team was being our team was being so toxic. I actually got up, left my lane, and went into lane with them and played the rest of the game side by side with this person for the rest of the game. When arguably that was the dumbest decision to make because I just left my lane.
Yeah.
And that could just go bad.
Yeah.
Now, what happened was at the end of that game, that person friend requested me and sent me a message. League of Legends, normally people send you friend requests or send you messages. The messages aren't the nicest, and the friend requests are usually 1v1 me, bro. And it's like, no. But no, this person, they sent me a friend request. And they asked me, why were you nice to me? We played more games after that. They were a very skilled player, way better than me. But we played more games. We hung out. We talked. We learned each other's stories. And I will say that this person was like me, the furthest from a church. They do not want to go to a physical church. They will never go to a physical church. And they were further from God than I even arguably have ever been. Thank God for that. And it got to the point where, and again, I'm not going to share their whole story because it is theirs and I want to be respectful. But they are someone who, if you knew their story and where they came from, you would either think there's no hope for that person, or they are so far gone, the best you can do is just leave them alone. But that person got the courage to come to a church service and hang out and just see what it was about. And it was on a topic that would have sent anyone else in that lifestyle running for the hills or being absolutely and utterly combative. And they weren't. They were, hey, I appreciate the message. I see what you're saying. Okay. So all of that, so let's just condense it all down. This person going from being the furthest possible from Christ to going to a church service and sticking around, even though arguably to them it would be offensive, all from what? I did nothing. All I did was be nice. That's it. That is literally it. I did nothing. All I was nice in a video game. And that person got closer to Christ than they probably ever have in their life. So you don't know what something as small as, hey, we got this can do. Again, I wasn't a wordsmith. Half my words are probably spelt wrong because, you're playing a game, you type fast. Like, there was no grand speech. There was no grand spectacle. There was no, a crazy power of Christ compels you situation. It was literally no. All I did was say, we got this. And it all started from there. So if you think that you can't do something like that I don't know how to do this, I'm going to be honest with you, none of us do. It's the Holy Spirit. That's who's doing it. It is not Flat Cap. It's not Boots. It's the Holy Spirit. So don't think you cannot, because you can't. The Holy Spirit's the one that's doing it. Like that's what's doing it. It is our power is through Christ. That's what you need to remember. Now,
well, that's just
going on.
Yeah, just to tag on that. It reminds me when you were telling that. It sounds a whole lot like the Jonah Nineveh. The Nineveh is the people that nobody's going to believe. They're far away. They are the worst people on the planet. There's no way they're going to listen to God or repent or do anything. And Jonah probably gives the worst message ever. That's going to, like, 40 days and you're going to be destroyed. Like, it's like there's no hope in his message. And yet the Holy Spirit used it anyway. So just to tag on that idea, the person that you don't think can come to repentance, and your message doesn't have to be the best message. And in fact, I would argue that the messages as a pastor that I went, oh my goodness, this was awful. I was dying up here. I really wanted the service to end. I will have more people come up to me and say, wow, that really touched me, Pastor. It reached me. I was struggling with this. And I'm like going, did you even listen to the message? That, like, and the ones that I'm like,
like a babbling idiot. What?
Right. And the ones I'm like wanting to pat myself on the back for and say, boy, that was a grand slam. Crickets. Literally never hear anybody say a word about it, because, well, when I'm weak, then he is strong. And when it's all in my power, I'm probably not actually reaching people.
It's incredible. And when it comes to Campfires and Dragons, it's not so much impact in terms of reach people, because Campfires and Dragons is actually still very young. We've only been going since September, a little after September, like mid-September, I think is when we technically started. So we're still baby. But what I will say is one of the most impactful things so far has been just the growth of community and people being there for each other genuinely. So more on like the streaming side of it versus like the impact with others side of it. Because we have a great community already. Don't get me wrong. Like, we have amazing people that hang out every week. We have amazing people that engage with our YouTube and stuff. Like, we have awesome people. But we're still young. So, you plant seeds and you may never see anything come to fruition in your lifetime, and that's okay. But I will say the thing that I've seen impact wise is in my own life. While doing Campfires and Dragons, my mental health drastically improved. Community drastically improved. Like, it was funny because Saint Bear and I, we never really talked much prior to like maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago now at this point. But it was crazy to think that all of a sudden we're looking at our Discord statistics when they started coming out with that. You could see like how many channels you were in, who you spent the most time talking to, what Discord you spent most time in, that kind of stuff. And we had realized that, holy cow, Saint Bear and I have spent more time hanging out in Discord than hanging out with anybody else. And we haven't been hanging out for that long.
Right.
Like, it was crazy. It's only been like a year or two. So it's finding genuine relationships and friends in the streaming space that I would have never guessed I would have ever found. And I think it's amazing, and I'm so grateful and thankful for it. So that's been the most impactful thing for Campfires and Dragons is almost me finding community within the space itself.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic you said that, because we've touched on the find other people on the journey with you and partner with them, and it really feels like that's what this is becoming. So I shouldn't say two, there's more than two, but there's two specific, like the knitting together of the community, going deeper. Like, if I'll take, the example of Jesus, where he has the 70, he has the 12, and then he has the 3. It's right. You're developing the 12, the small group, and you're developing the 3, the personal group. And then your hope is to build to the community of 70 around that are going to come alongside you, follow what you're doing, and they're going to help you go out to the crowd. And so I love that level of you're not only getting better at what you're doing, you're building a community of the community of streamers, the community that's producing, as well as the community that's coming alongside that's consuming and building relationship. I don't want to say consuming from the standpoint of watching
Right.
videos,
I get what you're saying.
but the community that is impacted by what you're doing together. So that's really cool.
Right. And I can tell you right now, I couldn't do any of this without the people at the table, like Saint Bear, Dr. Level Up, Pones Inc., Annika. Like, I could not do this without any of them. They're all amazing. They contribute a lot, and they do amazing things for the channel and everything that we're doing at Campfires and Dragons. And Dr. Forehead, if he's still in chat as well, he is always there modding. He's always there hanging out. He's always there engaging. He is just as a big a part of this as any of us are. And it's one of those where I couldn't do without any of them. It's a genuine community like stream. Like it genuinely is. It's not a Boots makes the decisions. This is where we go. Boots does this. Boots does that. It's like, no. We all do this. It's not just a me. It's not just a Bear. It's not just Pones. It's not just Annika. It's not just Dr. Level Up. We all are doing this together. And I think that's key, is because unfortunately, as talking heads, we can get ahead. Like we can get a big head. That's the problem. And it keeps you grounded. The other thing too is it helps people notice, like, hey, you're burning out. Reel it in.
Yep.
Because sometimes we don't see that.
Oh yeah.
Because we're too busy. Whereas like some people are like, hey, you haven't been acting the same. Like, are you good? Oh, I didn't even notice. Or you're starting to burn out. You need to reel it in. What can we take off your plate? And it's amazing because the key is, what I will say, if you are looking for this path when it comes to content creation and you're looking to collaborate and bring people together to do this, there needs to be an understanding that if you're looking to bring people in and have a team, that there is an expectation that it's not just Saint Bear. Like, let's just say Saint Bear is the talking head right now. Saint Bear's not just doing everything. No, Boots is also pulling some weight here. Because if that's the case, you're not actually running in community. You're just tangential streamers, essentially, because you're still doing all the work. It's like, no, if you're bringing people in for community and you're growing something together as a group, there should be an expectation that people are putting in effort. That they're just not showing up to be there. No, they're showing up to show up. It's important, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to burn out. Like there's just too much to do when you're trying to collaborate with that many people to do that much stuff. So people need to be willing to put in the effort with you and see what it is you're doing, understand the vision and the direction, and move forward with you, not get dragged by you. Not saying you're dragging anybody, but it's one of those where it's so easy to burn out one way or the other. You need genuine community, not just, hey, I'll take care of everything, you just show up. It's like, that's not a healthy mindset.
Oh, absolutely. I'll just say that's part of where I ended up not continuing to play Warhammer or Dungeons and Dragons. Was I was always the DM. I always had to create all of the story. I had to put all of the time and energy into that. And as I was busy with so many other things, it's like I didn't have capacity, but I didn't have another DM who could step up and do a one shot or do a group.
Right.
So it was just like, all right, since I can't do this, the game is not going to go on. If it's up to me, well, it's not going to be. It's
Right.
no longer going to be that way. And I played with my kids when they were in college, getting started, or in high school. It was like Christmas break we would play, and it was like it just became like, no, I'm the only one leading this, and then I don't have time to plan it. And then it's like, okay, can we actually get the schedule down? It was like, it was just like, if somebody else could have handled the schedule piece, like even just that much, could have taken it off my plate to make it easier to say, okay, if you'll do that and someone else could do this, then we can do it. But it was always, hey, are we going to play again? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe next. Yeah. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. Maybe no, it didn't happen. So
the biggest struggle with Dungeons and Dragons is definitely getting everyone to show up, like literally show up, because scheduling is so difficult for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the things we actually had to do at Campfires and Dragons for Dungeons and Dragons is when we did talk to like who we wanted to bring on the team, which is very intentional as to who we brought on the team, we brought up right out the gate, like, hey, the expectation is you have to show up.
Yeah.
Because like we are doing a live stream. If you do not show up, the game does not happen. So like you need to tell me right now, can you show up
Right.
all of these days? Because if you cannot, we cannot have you. As bad, as unfortunate as that is. So yeah, being very, very transparent with your team, whatever you're playing and whatever your team consists of, like whatever you're doing, transparency, clarity is kindness, and that goes both ways. Like if you think you can do, like if say someone asked me that, like, oh, can you show up every single Sunday to do this? And I was like, I want to say yes because I want to be. It's like, well, no, don't say that because you want that to be the answer. So no, can you or can you not?
Oh yeah, it has to be the priority. When you are collaborating and doing work with others, it has to be precedent and priority over other things.
Right.
And the exception is, sorry, this is an emergency. I can't get out of it. Which emergency
for sure,
or emergency could also be my boss is requiring me to do this, and sorry, but it's a one-off.
100%.
It can't be I know of groups where you're trying to get them together, and 6 months later, the person's never showed up to the group that meets every other week, and you're like, "Are you committed?" "Oh yeah, I'm committed." No, you're not.
Yeah, coming next week.
Yeah, no, you're not committed. So totally makes sense that you have to have those expectations and set the bar, because otherwise you're not really there together in what you're doing and creating.
Right.
Well, before we wrap up, is there anything that you had thought might come up in conversation that you just want to share with people about being a content creator, being on Twitch, any of those kinds of things?
Yeah, I will say that when you're thinking about, what it is, so I guess to content creators or even content consumers, you think about what it is you want to get into and things of that nature, where there are games that are not, you wouldn't think Christian affiliated, that aren't Christians shouldn't play this, or I have struggles with this. I will put it this way. You're one that you are meant to reach out may be in one of those communities. There are a lot of content creators out there that I know that are going into spaces that are not spaces that most people would say Christians should be. Whether that is VR with the furry community, whether that is Dungeons and Dragons, the arguably gigantic satanic panic issues that we talked about, or even something as simple as like, I don't believe that Christians should be playing whatever game for whatever reason. It's like that's irrelevant. Because if we don't go there, we will not reach people who are there. And don't get me wrong, you should not conform to those people. Like, again, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but we're not doing the tropes that a lot of people do. Like, we're not going out of our way to make things explicitly sexual or violent. We are just playing the game how it's meant to play. So go into those spaces, reach those people. Just remember that your identity is through Christ, and you're not to conform to them. You are to show them, hey, I am a Christian, but I also speak your language and play the game that you play, and I understand exactly where you are. And I'm here to talk, or here to be a friend, or here to just game together. Because again, remember, we plant a seed, and you may never see that seed come to fruition, and that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, good stuff. Is there things coming up for you or for Campfires and Dragons you just want to promote, tell people about?
Yeah, so we switched our schedule recently. We stream our normal show every other week now. So this is an off week. That's why we're able to do this podcast today. But we're also doing other things in between. Like we will just get on stream and just hang out and record stuff. So we're shifting focus to 50% Twitch, 50% YouTube. So even when we're online, we're not running the normal game. We are recording things for the YouTube channel that we have. So we're doing a lot more videos that are engaging to people who may not want to watch stream, little kind of silly videos or content depth videos, things of that nature that have to do with Dungeons & Dragons as a whole. So if you are curious about getting into Dungeons & Dragons, if you're curious about just Dungeons & Dragons in general, or you are a Dungeons & Dragons player, you love Dungeons & Dragons, and you want to get into more content that has to do with that, I would say that a shout out, we're going to be uploading a lot more stuff to our YouTube channel that is Dungeons & Dragons general content, not just our episodes that we stream. So keep an eye out for that. And if you're curious about Dungeons and Dragons, come hang out, ask questions. We'll happily answer and hang out and talk with you. If you like stories, what is Dungeons and Dragons but a big story? So if you like those story podcasts, we got you. The other thing too that we strive to be, I'll bring up one more quick thing about how we kind of run our Dungeons and Dragons. For those of you that are like, yeah, but there's violence. I've got kids. So we run our games PG-13. Because again, there's violence, so it's PG-13. But our goal is to have that our friends who have kids can listen to the podcast or watch the stream and don't have to worry about their kid being in the same room. Be like, oh, I can't watch this right now because Johnny's in the room with me. We can't do that. It's like, yes, there's going to be hard topics. And yes, there is violence. But we try to make it as family friendly as possible, also covering those so that you don't have to worry about your kids being in the room or say you're on a road trip and your kid's in the car. We aren't vulgar. We don't swear. We don't do your normal D&D tropes that a lot of podcasts do that you need to be concerned about. We try to make sure that we're as family friendly as possible to make sure that everyone is able to be at the table.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So you were mentioning a couple of the people that are there. Annika, yeah. So she's been on the podcast. Dr. Level
Up, yes,
has been on the podcast.
Also on the podcast.
And Dr. Level Up. So I don't know if he's shared this at the Church.digital. We are doing a digital missionary gaming workshop. So if you consider yourself a digital missionary, you're just trying to be salt and light in the space of gaming. We're doing a workshop on June 25. I think it's 25. Let me just pull that up a second. I'm going to make sure I get the date right. Yes, June 25. And it's going to be, I believe, at noon. It could be at 1 o'clock in our Discord. So Dr. Level Up is going to be talking about gaming as parable in the workshop. I don't know which order. I haven't scheduled the first, second, third speaker. We're going to have another person talking about digital ethics, how to have ethics within the digital realm.
That's cool.
And then I was hoping to have someone else do this, but so it looks like I might end up talking about theology of fun. So talking about
I love that.
Coming from the standpoint of, can I do something that's fun and it be ministry? That's really the vantage point that I want to come at and tackle and bring probably some scripture passages and stuff into that. So that will be
awesome.
A 4-hour free conference. So if you go to thechurch.digital, we'll have info coming up this week, and you'll be able to get signed up and join the conference there. That'll be in our Discord server. Yeah, no fun allowed. No, ministry has to be solemn and painful. I like solemn.
You're not doing it right if it doesn't hurt.
Solemn, I understand people claiming, but the painful, oh man, that's not good.
Fair.
Let me see. Do I have my Discord? It's funny. I don't normally stream for myself or TCD on Sunday. I have like no mods here at all today.
Yeah.
But I mean, the viewer count's great, but like, man, I got no VODs or mods. I gotta do it all myself.
Yeah. That's mods, real MVPs. All right.
Oh yeah.
You mod for a channel, you are a hero. All right. Like in and of itself, we couldn't do it without you at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love our mods.
Yeah. All right. So I know you said normally you're done at around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I like to do this if it works. We can do a double raid out to somebody else and just bless another community with a double raid. So if you
I'm here for it.
You'll have to have
Saint Bear
do that.
Yeah, Saint Bear. Do you see anybody on that you're keen on? I'm worried that if I pull something up, it's gonna freeze all my stuff again. So I'm like,
yeah, that could be.
Samus is live.
Is she? You know what? How do I not see Samus?
No, why don't we do Samus?
Yeah, we do Samus. Wow. Is the Church.digital not following me? How did I have her on the podcast and not follow her? That makes no sense.
I have found, though, Twitch is glitchy. Yeah. I have found that I've followed people and then gone back and somehow I wasn't following them. So
it's not showing
it
up.
Could just be a Twitch thing.
Yeah, it's not showing up that I'm not following her. It's just not showing up that she's streaming live when I say, look at the people that I'm following. Weird. Okay.
Oh.
All right.
Gotta love Twitch.
Yeah, so we'll raid out to Samus.
Let's do it.
I'll just thank everybody for being here, and then we'll start the raid. So thank you for being on the podcast, Boots. Had a lot of fun learning more about your journey. I haven't been there for all of it. I've intersected with you at different times, and it's a blessing to watch what God is doing in and through you. You definitely are an example of what I think God is up to in the space. Just straight up, I think that's what God is up to.
I appreciate that.
Is taking people from where you were and bringing them to where you are and more. He's not done with you. He's not done with anybody that's watching the stream. He's not done with me. And it is a pleasure to be along with the journey for everybody that's here. And thanks for spending time with me.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the invite. It's been a blast.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and start the raid, and then I'm going to roll credits. So thank you, everyone. Have a
Alrighty.
very, very blessed day. Oh, and look.